What's going on, guys? It's Logan. I'm here with my awesome co-host, man, EJ. Coming off of Halloween weekend, number one, and also a very scary game in the Georgia game, man. Florida versus Georgia. Florida obviously goes down 34-20. EJ, how was your weekend, man? How was the weekend? How was Halloween? How you feeling? And man, this game, we can dive straight into it because it hurts.
Hey everybody. Weekend was good. Out here in San Diego, we're hanging out with Michael Taylor, who's a former linebacker at Florida from 2010 to about 2014. He came watch the game with us. Um, Love getting the perspectives of former players. He was really positive during the game when we were all like, it's good. So we really like him. He's actually born and raised in San Diego. Um, but Halloween was great. Halloween was great, super fun. I'm hoping that next year it's on Friday, or is it moving to like be on Wednesday? I gotta check it out because if it's on Friday next year, that's really cool.
It'll be Friday, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Halloween like our favorite holiday around here. But yeah, good weekend, good weekend. Not so much for the Gators, which we'll talk about. Hopefully we can get well soon.
There you go, man. Love that. Yeah, I'm glad Halloween was good, man. Same over here. It was a lot of fun. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you saw that I met SpongeBob, which I was just telling EJ about. That's a whole story. SpongeBob got detained in front of me. It was crazy. But yeah, man. Yeah, obviously Florida Georgia game, man. Not exactly the way we want it. We can just dive right into it, man. And I know you guys are wanting our opinion on it. So here we go. We're gonna go and change this over. Oh man, as you guys can see, DJ Lagway has a prayer right next to him because that's we can just dive right into that. That's a big story, EJ. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Close to the end of the first half, DJ Lagway goes down. Number one, this Jacksonville field, man. So many guys were slipping. We had like 3 non-contact injuries this game alone. Obviously a couple major ones. I think Devin Moore came back out on crutches as well. There's a lot of word when it comes to this. A lot of conversations around this field. It happens every single year. Last year was the same exact way. Obviously, we got killed last year, but this year, we were just sliding all over the place. Cormani McLean even sliding, trying to cover in the secondary on a few plays, which led to guys getting open. And it's just that turf field. It was an absolute joke, and it led to a lot of bad things, which obviously led to DJ Lagway's non-contact injury. EJ, you know a lot more about medical stuff than me. We were actually talking about a little bit of that before we started filming this episode, but it looks like DJ just went to go plant his foot. It slipped, which led to a lot of tension on the hamstring. And the word on Napier going into halftime, he said it's significant, but then Lagway came out on crutches. But then at the end of the game, walking to the team bus, he wasn't on crutches anymore. And he said it was a soft tissue issue. That was a fun word to say. So to you, EJ, what do you think? What are your thoughts on him not going on crutches? There at the end of the game. Just tell me a little bit about what you think, man, because Gator Nation's scared.
Man, our heart. We were all watching the game at the Gator Bar here in San Diego with Mike Taylor, and it was, an incredible. We had a big audience, and a couple of the Gators that are there were they're doctors at the Navy hospital here in town, and so we were all actually talking about what the heck. So our theory is or was that he potentially tweaked his hamstring in the 2 weeks prior at maybe practice, and it wasn't communicated broadly because he was okay. And when it happened in the game, everyone sort of knew what it was because the speed that the cart came out, the speed that the medical team kind of already knew what the issue was, kind of made us think that they already knew what they were dealing with. We're thinking that maybe it was a grade 1, very mild in practice, if he did tweak it in practice. And then, this re-aggravation may have elevated to a grade 2, hopefully not a grade 3. But a grade 2 is there's always going to be some sort of fiber that's torn in your hamstring. It's just if it's completely detached or if it's like just some micro tears that need some time and some, to heal. If he's walking around without crutches to the bus, which is what they were saying, then, we think that that's probably a really good sign. Either way, a hamstring injury, depending on the severity, is probably at least a month of just getting well, making sure you're not putting a lot of strain on it. Um, you know, um, Elevate, ice, all that they tell you to do. Um, we'll see what happens. They'll let us know on Wednesday, the official report. But that's sort of what we were thinking, all the medical professionals, as we were watching the game.
Yeah, yeah. No, oh man. What scares me, man, is Lagway's already been banged up a little bit this season. And that's what scares me. That's not a good sign. I don't want this to be another Richardson situation in the sense of he can just never stay healthy, because he was banged up earlier in the year
Yeah.
against Samford. He definitely got a concussion. I remember there was a play where he got hit. He came up and he was like, he like was stumbling a little bit. Like, that's not good, man. And I like you said, it could very possibly be a re-aggravation. And we know that he had an ankle injury, I believe, at the beginning of the season. That's what's very scary, man. And I don't know. I'm not trying to speculate or get the fans more worried or more anxious, but I'm just, that's one thing I'm a little nervous about, is he a guy who just is very susceptible to injuries?
Yeah.
Because we've seen that in the past. When you have a very athletic quarterback, that's bound to happen. A guy who's a big body quarterback as well and puts his head down, and Tebow was just different. Tebow just he was just that man was just insane. But most of these bigger quarterbacks do have these injuries. I'm a little worried about that. We'll see what happens going forward. But honestly, man, if we could just get him back for Florida State, I just want to destroy them, man. I just want I cannot stand them. We'll get to their game later on. But I just want to beat Florida State this season, man, because I don't know about the rest of the games, which we'll of course get to. But yeah, big injury there. But anyway, let's kind of go back to the actual game. I'm going to go ahead and go to the slide here for us. Let's talk about this Florida Gator offense. Right here, we'll talk about the Florida offense. I'll let you take over a little bit here, EJ, on kind of what you think. How were they playing on this first half until the Lagway injury? Just kind of break that down a little bit. What the game plan you think was coming into this game?
Yeah, so the game plan to me, well, first of all, we just want to say we're praying for DJ. I
Oh, of
mean,
course.
it's our hearts sank when we saw him injured like that. And to your first point about, is he injury prone? That's definitely something that, a lot of players are a little bit more susceptible to injury than others. Our hope is that he's a true freshman and he hasn't gone through a full year of conditioning at the college level to be able to, endure a whole season. Because typically, true freshmen, they don't get out there and have to start and play a whole game. Um, so hopefully that's part of it, and he can come back and be a lot more durable in his second season. But I thought the game plan was great. I mean, I thought, at a 30,000-foot view, Billy Napier, for the players that he had available, I think came up with a really good plan. I don't think that he's figured out the backup quarterback typology yet, because this is now the third year in a row where we've been in a situation where the last man standing that you got to put in as quarterback is a statue in the backfield and also inaccurate throwing the ball. I mean, we've had in the Oregon State Bowl against Las Vegas when Anthony Richardson decided to not play, we had Jack Miller, inaccurate statue in the backfield. Last year against Florida State, We had Max Brown, statue in the backfield, inaccurate throwing. And now, bless his heart, Aiden Warner, who we all who we,
Walk on.
walk on from Yale. The kid looks like he's 16. Did as well as he could do, but he really is a high school player. I mean, there's probably class 5A or 6A quarterbacks in Florida that would probably have given you a little bit better of a chance than poor Aiden Warner. But I think Napier's got to figure that out because it's clear that there's having a third string quarterback that's a statue and inaccurate throwing is not a good strategy in the long term. You probably need like a Texas A&M Marcel Reed. Go out there and get a quarterback that you can convert to a wide receiver so that when you get in that situation, you have someone that can run or throw it deep. Like that's pretty much all you need. A roll the pocket, take off if it's not there, or have a quarterback that can do a read option and then throw the ball deep. Actually trying to navigate a game with Warner, who's not capable of running, and having him read defenses, especially arguably the best defense in the country, is doomed to make a mistake. And even though we had 3 interceptions in this game and we were minus, I think we were minus or +2 turnover ratio, Georgia actually outscored us in points off of turnovers, technically, if you count the botched field goal, um, which I count as basically that was a turnover because you're talking about a 30-yard loss back to into scoring range that Georgia immediately cashes in with a touchdown. The interception thrown by Warner was immediately cashed in for a touchdown. That's 14 points. We only scored 10 points off of the Georgia turnovers. So that's +4 for Georgia, even though it seemed like we had more turnovers than them. Um, that's sort of how the game went. The other part was, if you look at the stats, the really good teams typically hold their opponents below their season averages. And that's exactly what happened in this game. I think DJ Lagway coming out, and Georgia fans are going to say, and I've already seen them, well, he was only 2 of 6 when the game, when he left the game. So, you guys need to cope harder. I'm like, yeah, 2 completions averaging 25 yards a completion. That's pretty much what he does. Give us 5 more completions in that game and the game's over, right? But the reality is, Georgia tend to be a lucky team. They are built to withstand major injuries, just the build of their players. Um, and we continue to have significant injury situations. I think we had 7 significant injuries in this game. We had your top 2 quarterbacks are out, your top 2 corners are out. Devin Moore was injured. You don't have Jason Marshall.
Well,
Your
and then Jakeem Jackson at the beginning of the season went down. You have was it Turner, the Washington transfer at safety? He's out as
Andrew
well.
Turner, he's
Yep,
out.
and then you have the other DB as well that got injured. He's having a great season. He's the highest graded corner right now in coverage. I forgot his name, number 27, I think. He as well played got injured as well. Like you said, it's just like our secondary is beat up so bad to the point where we had a safety playing DB in this game. Like we literally had a Bridges come down at DB at corner. Like what? Like we're so beat up. It is unbelievable. So, anyways, I'll let you finish, but it's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. The injuries are you just I know people will say they're part of the game. They're part of the game. They are. But when you're playing teams like Georgia that have a 3 deep roster, and Florida pretty much has a 2 deep when it comes to blue chips, when you go down a whole wave of players and then now your third string is in the game, you're just not going to be able to compete and make enough key plays in the game to come out on top. And that's sort of what happened in this game. Georgia is a very lucky team. You know, Florida, Florida was not capable of being a legitimate scoring threat with the offense when DJ Lagway came out of the game and Aiden Warner had to go in. And as a result, Kirby Smart kind of knew that, and they were able to capitalize off of Florida's inability to move the ball and any mistakes that we made, which was the interception and the botched field goal, which, by the way, that was a key of the game, which was let's not do something that we haven't done all year. Because in the Georgia game, something that we've never seen always ends up happening. And I've never seen a snap in a field goal this season that the guy is running 30 yards down the field the other direction. So that was, if you absolute value that was 10 points in absolute value, because instead of 3 points our way, it was 7 points their way. So that's a 10-point difference on that one play. So yeah, just didn't go our way, but the team's effort level, I think, was at 100%. I think Billy Napier, for the players that he came into the game with, developed a really good plan. It's just we don't have enough depth, and the backup plan for Billy Napier just wasn't there. And that's just sort of how it felt on offense.
Yeah. Georgia's defense, man, came in here playing too high, kind of like what we talked about, taking away those deep shots and forced, AR to hit some of those underneath routes, which, by the way, he didn't want to do. Yep. And that's something that I saw in this game. There's multiple times where he had, because listen, let's give a shout out as well to this pass blocking on this offensive line. They did a pretty good job in this game, playing against some really good defensive linemen. Was it perfect? No, but a lot better than what I thought. Even when Aiden Warner was in there, he had a lot of time in the pocket on a lot of plays. So Richardson, DJ had time to sit in the pocket and read, and he does high to low. He always reads the safeties and comes back down, but after he reads a safety and comes back down, if his first guy on come back down is not there, he wants to scramble and he gets uncomfortable. And there was a couple times where he missed open guys underneath, and dude, big shout out to the Georgia DBs. They were covering extremely well. You know what I mean? They, like I said, were playing those deep shots. Obviously, after the interception, which we'll get to the Gator defense in a little bit, after the interception of Devin Moore, I believe, DJ gets the ball, steps back, and just throws a dime down the field. Unbelievable to Mizell. Mizell runs it in for a touchdown. And this is something I want to talk about, man. Like, this read by DJ was unbelievable. He was watching that safety. I can't remember the safety's name for Georgia, but he's been there for a while now. And I remember him reading that safety. That safety bit down on a crossing route because he thought Mizell was just going to stay under. And right when that safety took like 3 steps forward, DJ was like, all right, bet this. Steps back and just throws a dime. And like, I don't think you guys understand. Look at Ohio State. Look at Tennessee. These teams that are really, really good. And, I was watching Penn State against Ohio State, and Will Howard it cannot throw accurate deep balls to save his life, right? Nico cannot throw accurate deep balls to save his life. Dylan Raiola at Nebraska cannot throw deep shots really consistently when it comes to accuracy. But DJ just somehow hits guys in stride. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, like I said, Will Howard at Ohio State throws a big time play down the field, but his wide receiver's wide open, has a 10-yard buffer, but has to slow down to the point where the DB almost catches up and stops it from happening. But DJ just gets these guys in stride every single time. Beautiful deep ball. It was unbelievable. One thing I want to say too, his footwork in this game was way better than what we've seen in the past. You could tell he was a little bit more comfortable, and his feet were a lot more calm in this game. So it sucks, man. He was making great strides, and the thing with DJ Lagway at quarterback is you're always one play away from taking the lead. Always one play away. Always. Yep. And, he just adds that element that just terrifies these teams. And by the way, made Kirby Smart play very conservative in this game. You know what I mean? I was watching that, man. There was multiple times where he didn't go for it, punted in his own territory, went for the field goal, at like the 4-yard line. Like, it's very interesting. Not something that Kirby Smart usually doesn't do, but when you have a quarterback in DJ Lagway that can turn a game upside down in the matter of one play, you have to play conservative. You have to play the rule of scores, you know what I'm saying, and get
Yeah.
up points wise. So just very, very interesting to see that game plan from Kirby. You know, I had to play a lot more conservative. But yeah, you know, like you said, we ran the ball very well in this game, something that we wanted to rely on coming into the game, and we were able to do. Not many teams were able to run the ball against Georgia like that, and we were able to do that very well with Ball and Jackson. Jackson had a great game as well, which we love to see. But yeah, like you said, Aiden Warner comes in. Love this kid because he throws a bomb down the field on the first play. He wanted to make something happen. I'm like, hey, I love it. You know, he has no arm strength at all, but you know what I mean. It was a really fun way to start it. And like you said, everything is kind of sort of falling apart. You know, I will say this: there is potential with him throwing the football. Like he does read and he does place the 28-yard completion to Elijah Badger, right? The defender was in front of Badger, but he throws a back shoulder, deep cross kind of play, and it was a really well placed ball, and a really good job by Warner there. So, he can't read a field very well, but when he has a guy it's a one-on-one, he likes taking that chance, and that's gives me some kind of hope. You know what I mean? Going into these next few games is, hey, these defenses might not trust him throwing the ball down the field, and we can maybe find some stuff down the field with Aiden Warner because he's not scared to throw deep balls. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I feel like he's even more willing to throw deep shots than, Mertz. So that gives us some kind of chance there, and something I kind of took out of this football game. His pocket presence is not great. He did have a couple of plays where he stepped up into the pocket, which was really nice. But, like you said, this kid gets thrown into the Wolves. He looks like he's 16, and, gets thrown into a game and against one of the toughest defenses in college football, if not the toughest defense in college football. So I'm very curious in this Texas game to see with a game plan what he's able to do. Now that he knows he's going to start, lifelong Gator fan, parents are alumni, right? Very, very excited to see what happens with him. But yeah, man, game plan on offense, running the ball, like I said, very well done. But the fact that we went down the field and got a touchdown, you know what I'm saying? Unreal, right? One of my keys to the game was getting 5 explosive plays of 20 plus yards. I think we had 4 in this game. So we didn't really reach 5, but they came in key moments, in key situations, and that big run by Jackson there to get it in the end zone to tie it up late, which, by the way, like you were saying earlier, I thought we were done. I thought game was over. Me and my boy, we were on the couch, and we were just like, there's no way we get down the field and get a touchdown. And after a few big plays and a few penalties, key penalties by Georgia, we get down the field and get that touchdown on, I believe it was a 15-yard rush by Jackson there. Which, by the way, our wide receivers have done a great job downfield blocking this season, and they did a great job on that play. I mean, dude, DK came in like a missile, bro, and just blew a guy out of the play. It was amazing. So, yeah, anyways, I think I kind of hit everything I wanted to say on that. But overall, we did, like you said, what we could. Injuries are an absolute joke. It's hurting us really bad. We had a lot of guys go down, and, we did what we could on offense, and guys wanted to play but couldn't get it done.
100%. 100%. And to your question about Warner, we've got to figure out what he does well and do that over and over again. Because I think it just seemed like, when Lagway was on the field, I was with one of my friends, we were watching the game. The camera went over to Warner, who's on the sideline, and his face was like, get up, DJ, get up. And so it's like we're like, oh my God, here we go. And so, but the kid was a trooper. I mean, he really went out there and did the best that he could do. The one interception was really the backbreaker, but he only made one awful mistake. He had a couple of passes that he was threading the needle there, maybe, but I think overall, this week, Napier's just got to figure out what does this kid do well, and let's do it. We're going to have to lean on the run. One thing that I did not like that the offense did was we tied the game up at 20-20 through successfully running the ball with Jackson. Power running. It seemed like the Georgia defense was a little worn out a little bit. And then instead of coming, and then Georgia came back and made it 27-20. And instead of coming back with, okay, we got 5 minutes to go, let's run the ball down the field. We come out and we go away from the run and we try to throw it, and we get picked off on the very, that very first play. So I think we should have probably ran the ball a little bit more. Um, we've got to focus on the run in this game. Run and then throw it deep, and then also safe underneath dump down passes. Uh, that's what we got to do, I think.
Yeah, I said the same exact thing to my boy. We went right to passing, and like you said, when running, I think Ball and Jackson were averaging like, let me see real quick. I got the stats right here. Yeah, Jacoby Jackson 6 yards a carry and Ball 4 yards a carry. So it's like you're averaging some really good rushing stats. Why you went away from that? I don't know.
We went away. Yeah, we went away from it. We
Yeah.
should have leaned completely into it when Lagway went out. Didn't do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing I will say is I went and watched some old highlights from Aiden Warner when he was in high school and a little bit at Yale as well. He loves rolling out to the right side, and that's something he did a lot in this game against Georgia. There was multiple times where he had a clean pocket, but he would still roll out to the right. That's when the interception happened, all that fun stuff as we know. But he's very comfortable with rolling out to the right side. Something that Napier loves to do anyway with his quarterbacks. He has those little flood concepts where he likes to roll his guy out. Thing is, his defenses know how to attack that. All they do is bring a linebacker or a defensive end to that outside and to contain, and they just come straight at the quarterback, which happened a lot with Richardson, happened a lot with DJ and Mertz and all that as well. But that's something that Warner really likes to do is roll out to the right. So, it fits Napier's scheme, like you said, dump down passes, fits Napier's scheme, hitches, fits Napier's scheme. Does Warner want to take deep shots, like you said, is something that's extremely important. And and listen, there is a path to beat Texas, and we'll get to that in a bit. I really dove deep into the PFFs and a lot of those stats, and so there is something there. But man, we have to have a lot go right for us, and we'll see what happens. But that's kind of my overall thoughts on the offense and in this game. EJ, do you have anything else you want to talk about offensively?
I think that's it. Warner, rolling out to the right. But the thing with Georgia is it's kind of like on the video game where you roll out and somebody looks open, you throw it, and then the guy kind of like phases up the field to intercept the ball. That's pretty much what you're going to get with a team like Georgia, and I think it was CJ Allen. These athletes are a lot faster than what you're used to. And the anticipation in your head has to be, okay, it's too late to throw this ball now. And I think with no experience, it's hard to know the speed of the game like that. Because the guy, if you're looking at the play, you could see who he's trying to throw to, but the way that the interception happened is like, well, where'd this guy come from? So that's pretty much what happened. But I think got a lot to learn this week.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Let's dive into this Florida Gator defense, man. Look, we have been a turnover machine the past few weeks. 3 interceptions against Kentucky, 3 interceptions here against Georgia, 6 interceptions in the past 2 games. EJ, this is something that we have not been able to do really for a long time now. This goes back to Todd Grantham's defenses. You know what I'm saying? We have not been able to create turnovers, and we have been going crazy these past few weeks. So we obviously did it here. Carson Beck, man, a quarterback who just has fallen apart. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's because, he had better receivers last year, at least a number one kind of guy to go to. He doesn't really have that this year. He has good guys like Lovin on the outside. And listen, there were some big explosive plays in this game, but man, he just did not like it. And something that I think is really funny that Florida did is we played soft, and we were like, all right, let's see if he can read this defense, and we're going to play some zone and see what he can do. And bro, we had guys dropping right into throwing lanes that he just was not expecting. You know what I'm saying? That which was so funny to see. And he was just not comfortable with that. We're starting to bring in more creepers as well. Something that we did a lot at the beginning of the season that was not successful, but we're doing that really well here, which led to a Jack Pyburn interception and a couple other really good plays. So we're incorporating a lot of creepers again, which is really funny. But yeah, we played, with stopping the run and playing a little bit soft in the back and letting him create turnovers, and it was a great plan because obviously it worked for us. So what did you think about the defense in this game, EJ? Any big players that jumped out at you? Obviously, turnovers was huge. So how did you feel about this game plan and what you were thinking coming in?
Yeah, I thought it was a great defensive game plan. The thing with the interceptions is the defense is finally getting pressure on the opposing team's quarterbacks. And it's funny what happens when you can get pressure. And all three interceptions, if you go back and look at them, the Florida defense got into Carson Beck's, sphere of safety. And the thing with Beck, and it's always interesting because like when you think about quarterbacks that go to the NFL, I always like to see when they played in college relative to the competition, since there's like 130 teams, so it's a lot, the talent's a lot, distributed, and you only play, maybe a couple of teams a year if you're like Georgia who can actually match your talent. In the NFL, you're playing every team you play pretty much can match your
To
talent
Georgia, yeah.
to right. And so with a player like Beck, he's not used to having any pressure on him. He's not used to having defensive backs that are more athletic than your wide receivers. He's not used to when I hand the ball off, they actually at the end of the game they exceeded their average. I think they were 4.6 yards a rush in this game, which was a little bit higher than their average. But early on in the game, we were stopping their run,
Yeah.
and you could tell Carson Beck got a little spooked because when we got pressure and got those interceptions, later in the game, like maybe the midpoint of the game, we were able to get 2 sacks because instead of him like trying to force the ball, he's like, "Oh crap! Oh, sack!" And our key to the game, or at least my key to the game, was 3 sacks, and we'd probably win the game. We got 2.
Mhm.
The other key to the game was, I think, explosive plays. We had one less than what we needed, and the other one was rushing. Who was going to outrush? They had 148, we had 146. So the game
Yeah.
was like all 3 keys. We were just like one play away from hitting one of those keys, but we didn't hit any of them. So that's pretty much what happened on this play. I think at the end of the day, the key play, the game-changing play in this game, and you already touched on it, was it was 6 minutes to go in the game, and it was a 3rd and 7 from I think it was around the Georgia 32-yard line. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we can stop them on this play. That who knows what's going to happen. And we came with a 5-man blitz. They picked it up. I don't know if it was uh, just our guys were a little bit tired, whatever the case may be. Both starting DBs are out. So now you have Cormani McLean, who's technically a walk-on at this point, out there playing. And he slips on the field. And I think it was Arian Smith, who's one of their leading receivers, just is a great route runner. Not an explosive, like he's like out there like a George Pickens or anything big like that, but it's a great route runner. And when you're that kind of player on Cormani McLean, who really hasn't played at this level, he just makes one stutter step, boom, he's 3 yards off, easy 34-yard catch or whatever it was. That was the game changing play because if you were able to get pressure on Beck, get a sack in that play or force an incompletion, the game's completely different at that point. But you make that completion, you're immediately in scoring range. They go down to score a touchdown on a I think it was it a screen pass? They threw
Yeah.
a screen pass and got
Yeah.
up, yeah, and went up. That was the game-changing deciding play, but I love the play call on defense. Come after him, get pressure. Don't give him a lot of time to have, on your corners. But when both your starters are out, you don't have Jason Marshall out there, which this was a game that is a play where maybe Marshall is there and Beck has to hesitate a little bit, or maybe Devin Moore's there and Beck has to hesitate a little bit. It's wide open, easy pickings, um, for the score there. We did well, I think, on third down. We held them to 36% third down conversions, which was less than their average. We did get 2 sacks, which there have been years where we don't even get into the backfield at all against Georgia. So that was really, really good. Um, you could just kind of tell if you were to just look at the stats of this game and you don't follow college football, you would just think, oh, Georgia handled business. They outgained Florida, 455 to like 300 and something. They won by 2 touchdowns. They handled business. But if you actually watch the game, the flow of this game just immediately ticked into Georgia's favor when DJ Lagway came out, because now there's a plot twist where we have to play. We could not play defense with our offense because we couldn't get a first down. I think there was a stat where there was 11 possessions, 7 of them were 3-and-outs
Yeah.
with Aiden Werner. You just can't have a game against Georgia where you can't get a first down to keep your defense rested. The defense, as well as they've played all season, they were just really, really tired late in the game. Couple that with the interception that puts the ball at the 13-yard line. It just is very, very, very difficult. But overall, a spirited performance by the defense. Hopefully they can keep it up this week when they go to Austin.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is very, like you said, Austin Armstrong type game where you are locked down a lot of the game, and actually my key on defense was keep them to third and long. And we did that. I mean, listen, there's the first couple drives, they had, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and, they were kind of pushing the ball down the field. But when you really look at this game as a whole, they weren't just like, really getting 4 or 5 yards a play. It was a lot of chunk, big explosive plays, and that's something that you're going to get with an Austin Armstrong defense. You know what I mean? Like, people said the defense was horrible last year. It really wasn't bad when you really look at it. It was just explosives. We had the highest allowed explosive rate in the country, but if you take those explosive plays away, we're a top 10 defense in the country, and you look at this game, it was a lot like that. It wasn't just that one, but there was another third down play that they had on offense where it was a 3rd and long, we brought pressure, and a big play happened, right? And like you said, I don't hate that at all, because like you were stating, we got pressure on Carson Beck, but it was either we got pressure on him or he had 15 seconds in the backfield to throw the football. And so I don't blame him for bringing pressure there, because, man, every single time he had, time in that pocket, he was throwing dots and he was throwing explosive plays. So I don't blame Austin Armstrong for bringing pressure, because, like I said, it was either we were, getting in the backfield or we were not getting in the backfield. And on a third down, I really liked that. But like you said, when you have 5 guys out in your secondary and 5 starters out, there's only so much you can do, and you don't want those receivers, like you were stating, even though they're not these big explosive guys that we've seen Georgia have in the past. They're not, a 2020 Alabama wide receiver core. They still can get open, and they're still very clutch and good route runners and very efficient, right? And that's what bit us, man, is we don't want to give them time to get open. We don't want them time to be creative and find holes in this defense, because it's there. And and we have guys that are just not great pass coverage guys, and it just sucks, man. There's no win-win situation here. You know what I'm saying? Either whatever you do, there's big, massive risks, and not necessarily our fault that those risks are there. And there was something else that you stated that I wanted to touch on that I just cannot remember. defensively. But um,
Ooh, well, can I mention
yeah,
one thing?
go for
Our
it.
man Aaron Gates, who we mentioned last week, another phenomenal game by our is he a safety or deep? I don't know what he
He's
is.
playing everywhere.
He's playing. He seems like he's all over the field, making tackles for loss. Got an interception, a huge interception. That did that lead to our? I think that led to a field
Field
goal. I
goal.
want to
Yeah.
say. Just phenomenal player. He's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, what I love about Gates is his run fit is unbelievable. He's probably the best tackler on this defense. Like
Oh
anytime he
yeah,
gets on a guy, the
sure.
guy's going down. Thing about
Yeah.
Gates is his pass coverage is not great. When he's a one-on-one with the guy, man to man, he's not good. In this game, there was a deep shot that Carson Beck missed. You know what I mean? That was a wide open on Gates. So if you're an offense and you're playing Gates, get him in pass coverage, get him in a one-on-one situation. But you're not gonna be able to run the ball on this man because what I love about him is he flies down the field. He flies in and tackles. You never see him whiff. But yeah, that was a really good job on breaking down on that play, and it was just a beautiful pick. But he's still struggling in pass coverage, like I said, in one-on-one situations. But yes, I mean a guy who's just incredible in run fit. Like he's the best tackler on this team, and he's just making these massive plays a couple weeks in a row now. So yeah, good for him, man. He's playing really really well. Jack Pyburn, a guy who's blowing up his guy and getting in the backfield on
Yeah.
almost every play. Really good job by Jack, and really good in pass and pass coverage as well on his little creeper plays. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's one other thing I want to touch on. I can't really remember it, but that's kind of the gist of what I really wanted to talk about. Defense held their own, played well, played gritty, played nasty, did really well against the run. You know, like I said, a lot of those rushing yards came later on in the game. They held their own really well. By the way, I lost so much respect for Kirk Herbstreit because this dude hates Florida. Like, I don't know if you noticed that too. If you're you're probably not listening too much in the bar or wherever you guys watched it, but God, this guy, like, he's over here comparing DJ going down to Trevor Etienne going down. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's that hating. He's hating on Florida a lot in this game. They're calling out Florida on a lot of things they're not calling out Georgia for. The ESPN hates us, and it's very obvious now. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I guess we're the heel because of Spurrier. I don't know anymore, but it is what it is. I just wanted to talk about that because I was always a big Kirk Herbstreit guy, but I don't know if it's because of what happened in 2008 because we destroyed his Ohio State Buckeyes. But God, man, they hate the Florida Gators. It's really interesting to see. But yeah, really, really good game by our defense, man. Did what they have to do. Great job on turnovers, and I can now say we can rely on our defense going into these final four games.
Yeah. And we're gonna have to.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to have a
yeah.
mentality where we cannot allow them to score. And the offense is gonna have to possess the ball and get first downs. If we can't get first downs, it's not gonna help the defense, at all.
No, no, yeah, and we're playing some good offenses, man. I mean, you got LSU, you got Ole Miss, who just dropped like 56. You have Texas when Quinn Ewers is on it, he's on it. But then you have obviously Florida State, which I don't think they even know where they are. So that's
No.
good. We have something to look forward to there. Uh, but uh, but yeah, man. So some really good offenses coming up. So we'll see what happens. Anything else you want to touch on the defense, man?
So we got a couple deflections at the line of scrimmage, which is
Yeah.
really good to see. Jordan Castell, one of our great safeties, looked like he got his arm banged up a little bit, but came back into the game, so that's a good sign. Um, I just think overall, just a much better effort by the defense. They seem to be in their spots. They seem to know the plan. Everybody seems to be on the same page. Just a really, really good effort. And if you had a little bit more of a scoring threat, which unfortunately, the plot twist with DJ Lagway, I think this defense would have had a much better game. And I don't think Georgia would have been able to gain as many yards because I don't think they wouldn't have had possession of the ball as long as they did. They won time of possession, I think, by about 8 or 9 minutes in this game. And we weren't able to complement that. The Jack Pyburn interception to start the second half. I mean, if you think about it, we took a 13-6 lead in the halftime. Now, if you're coming out there in the second half with DJ Lagway on the opening drive instead of going 3-and-out, combine that with you have a Pyburn interception that puts the ball in Georgia territory. You're probably, I mean, there's no way you're not more successful than two consecutive 3-and-outs in those situations, and so that's why I think this game kind of turned a little bit. And then when you have a little bit of a lead, now you have to force Kirby Smart in Georgia to throw the ball. They can't rely on their run. Georgia remained within contact, and so they could continue to be balanced, much more difficult to defend, much more easy to wear out your defense. So it's all woulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But at the end of the day, good performance by the team. Let's see what we can do this week.
Yeah, and one other thing too, there was a lot of contact at the line of scrimmage when they ran the ball. Our guys were getting hands on their guys, and that was a great job right there, for sure. But yeah, like you said, just phenomenal job. If we have DJ Lagway, and I think we win this football game, which is crazy to say. You know what I mean? The fact, and for all the Georgia fans saying it's an excuse, we tied it in the fourth quarter with our third string quarterback. Just keep that in mind. So that's that. One other thing, special teams, just kind of want to touch on that. Obviously, we had the big debacle we could have been, like you said, it was a 10-point absolute, you know what I mean? Situation there. They got a touchdown off of that. The snap was obviously not good, but it wasn't horrible. I feel like Crenshaw definitely could have caught that. It didn't touch the ground or anything. It was just a little low. So just something that was very interesting. I thought it was really, really bad when I saw it on TV, but honestly, on the replay, it wasn't horrible. But definitely could have been a little bit better there. But speaking of Crenshaw, phenomenal game. Had like 2 punts of 60 yards. I mean, this dude helped keep us in this football game. His best game as a Gator, in my opinion, up to date. Phenomenal job. Trace Mack, 2 of 2 with some really good field goals, by the way. He was on a run, and then Georgia as well, 2 for 2. Their punter did a pretty solid job as well. So special teams, man, other than that really bad moment, played really, really well in this game. And, they've been playing really well all year. So, yeah, I was sitting in silence when we had that field goal moment. I was sitting there quiet for about 5-10 minutes, man. It was brutal. Luckily, had some Pizza Hut to kind of calm me down. Stressing.
But isn't it amazing how special teams can just completely change the game? I mean, the best that you can hope for is to just play even, like do everything you're supposed to do, punt the ball, tackle the punter or punt returner, kick the ball through the end zone, don't allow a kick return. It just seems like we have not had a game, at least to my recollection, where we haven't just had that incredible special teams play that really put the game in our favor, and we always seem to have a mistake. So this was one of those games where unfortunately the snap by Underwood was a little bit low. But just like wide receivers, if a pass hits you in the hands, which this ball, it hit Crenshaw in the hands, you gotta catch that snap and put it down, brother. This is Georgia game here, but like I said, we always have a play that you never see before. Like we probably 1,000 times in a row would catch that snap, but somehow when we play Georgia, we don't catch the snap. So that's what happens.
Yeah, Underwood has done a phenomenal job for us, man, as a long snapper for like 4 or 5 years now. And it's just, that you could see him on the sideline. The camera kept panning to him, and it was brutal. But yeah, man, there you go. Georgia game. That's our thoughts on it, man. I was
you were almost at your prediction, dude. It was 27-20, and that was your prediction.
Yeah.
I was like, he might be right if we could get a stop here. And then
Yeah,
obviously we didn't
yeah.
get the stop.
Yeah, we,
But
we both had Georgia winning that game, and the fact that we almost pulled that off, man, unbelievable, man. And it's just like you said, we can never have anything nice as a Florida Gator, but it is what it is, man.
yes.
Um, so yeah, there we go. That's our Georgia game recap, man. You guys let us know what you think about the game, man. What jumped out at you guys? How are you feeling going forward? EJ, quick question: do you want to talk about the season going forward now, or do you want to wait until the end of the episode? How are you feeling with that?
Uh maybe let's preview Texas and
Let's do that.
then that'll probably put some juices in our head as to what's the rest of the season gonna look like?
Let's do it, man. Um, the new AP poll I believe is out right now. Hold up, let me check this. I've not seen this new AP. Um, obviously since because it comes out at 1 o'clock and it's 1:33 right now. AP poll football. Let's see what we got. If I don't think the new one's dropped.
I'm sure Georgia is gonna get a million votes for being so resilient and overcoming the three interceptions of Carson Beck against the Florida backup third string to win. They're gonna get all the first place votes
Yep.
and unseat Oregon is number one. Is that the narrative you think, Logan?
Dude, I don't honestly. I probably man. They love Georgia. They love the Georgia Bulldogs. It's a joke. Yeah, the AP poll is released at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard
Oh,
Time
okay.
for us. So
Okay.
that's in 30 minutes. So we'll check and see what's going on there. A lot of people have
Okay.
Texas at 5 right now. So we're gonna be obviously in Austin, Texas, playing against the Texas Longhorns, man. Who Texas is on a roll. We can look a little bit at their schedule, see what they got going on. Let me go and see real quick. Obviously, got a win against Vanderbilt, but took an L against Georgia. But the rest of the season, all wins. Some very impressive ones looking back on them. Here we go, Florida. It's going to be a noon game, I believe, 11 a.m. When it comes to local time. The thing is Texas is a pissed off team. They are pissed. Their first time back in Austin since they took the L against Georgia. This is scary. I have a lot of stats I want to jump into here, but EJ, what's your overall feeling on this game? What do you think about this Texas team? Before we start diving into the analytics.
So when you just look at the numbers and you look at how Texas has progressed, they have not been a team that well, they're a team that beats you because of the matchups. Their offense typically can just score more points than your offense. And they've played teams who have not really had great offenses. Michigan this year, not a great offense this year. Mississippi State is actually a really decent offense, and that game was relatively close. And then, Texas sort of took control late in that game. Oklahoma, now we know what it feels like to be down five of your starters, right, on offense. And Georgia, the Georgia game, Georgia is a effective offense, uh, but they're not an explosive offense that's just going to decimate you this year. So that game was relatively close. This is a game that I could tell you with confidence that if DJ Lagway's in this game, it's just like the Georgia game. I think we have a legitimate shot at winning this game. But without DJ Lagway, this falls into the category of, a Michigan type performance where we've got a defense that can keep Texas below their scoring average, but we will not end up with enough points in the game to end up winning the game. We can go through some of those numbers, but this is a game where it's kind of like the stats are hard to predict, and use in this game because obviously now we've got a new quarterback, um, and Texas is now not playing against a team that they've got pretty much, seven game of game film on. they could really only have the second half or the last three quarters against Georgia to kind of figure out who's Aiden Warner, what is Florida going to try to do. And honestly, I just think their game plan going into this game is going to be, let's just end up with more points than Florida. Florida's defense is really, really good, but they are not Georgia level where they're going to hold us to 15 points.
Hmm.
Now, that kind of goes into, if you're Billy Napier and you're paying me, what's his salary per game? $1 million a game or something like that is his salary. If you decided to pay Ellington and Logan $1 million to come up with a game plan, the game plan in this game is we have to double down on our defense. Texas has a great offense, but they've been great against teams that can't stop anybody. Okay. Florida's defense, if you look at the schedule, is probably one of the top three defenses that they've played. Now, Florida's defense from a statistics standpoint is really bad because the first couple of games, and then the teams that we've played recently are still pretty good. You know, like Tennessee, Kentucky's still a legit team. Georgia's really good. We've got to lean on our defense, and we've got to run the football in this game. We've got to wild gator, direct snap to Ball, direct snap to Jackson. Put who's that wide receiver that we have that I'm kind of like direct snap to this guy and just do something, read option.
Yeah.
Gotta do something that gives Texas a look that is like, huh, that's something that we actually have to, mid game to, change it up a little bit. Napier typically just will, if this is a typical Napier game, he's going to go out there. We're going to see the same thing we saw in the second half against Georgia. No innovation. Aiden Warner, a sitting duck out there. We want to see a game plan. Like, come out, just throw quick screens. But you got to block if you're Badger, because that one block that he had, missed block against Georgia, like,
That was bad.
they almost took his head off.
Poor DK. Poor
Like,
DK.
quick screens, run the ball, keep the Texas offense off the field, get pressure on Ewers, force some turnovers, get interceptions, and then do something with the ball. You cannot get an interception in this game and not do something, take advantage. When Lagway was in the game, 10 points off of the 2 turnovers. When he was not in the game, we had the ball at the 40-yard line, 3 and out. You can't do that in this game against Texas. So that's kind of my initial thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's actually one of my keys to the game, which we'll get to in a little bit on the turnover thing. But yeah, let's start with Florida's offense versus Texas's defense, man.
Yeah.
So one good thing about Florida's offense that's really interesting is our pass blocking has been very good as of recent. We have been giving our quarterbacks time. On the PFF site, our pass blocking against Georgia was a 90.7. That's unbelievable. So we're giving our guys a lot of time against a really good Georgia defensive line, which, by the way, they brought pressure at some points, and we still had our guys, gave our guys time. So really good job there. Texas's pass rush is good, but it's not elite. So Georgia does have a better pass rush than Texas's defense, and we gave our guys time. So that's something that's really, really important, especially with a guy like Aiden Warner, like you were saying. EJ, give him time, let him complete some quick passes. And if he can just trust his offensive line, I think we will give him time. Now, look, we've had some whiffs. Barber had a few whiffs, you know what I mean? 70 had a few whiffs as well, George. But overall, we gave our guys time. So that's a big, big key, and something that is really the only positive we have looking at stats is our pass blocking. Everything else is kind of negative for us on offense. But yeah, the pass blocking is something to really look at for our offense. Now, Texas's defense, man, their pass coverage has been elite. It's been in the 90s. It's been in the 80s on PFF. They have been locking guys down, but their rush defense is good, but it's kind of in the mid 70s, high 60s. Like, they've had some interesting games. So, I think, we should be able to run the ball a little bit here. But yeah, I think if we just can give our guys time, it kind of goes to our game plan we had earlier, EJ. Take some shots deep, which means we have to protect the quarterback, something that we obviously can do in this game, apparently, according to PFF. And also run the ball. And their rush defense has not been super elite here. So it's definitely possible. My key to the game on offense for us is to run the football. I want at least 4.8 yards a carry, which I know is a lot, but obviously we're going to have to at least have that. You know what I'm saying? Any less than that, we're not going to win this football game because we're not going to be obviously effective passing the football, no matter what way you look at it. So if we run the football, we need to have at least 4.8, almost 5 yards a carry. And also, like you said, take advantage of a turnover. I have us with at least one touchdown off of a turnover. Since we've had 6 turnovers in the past 2 games, we're at least going to get one. I don't whether it's fumbling the football, whether it's an interception, because they have fumbled in the past. I expect us to get at least a touchdown off of a turnover, not field goals. I don't care about that. We need a touchdown. So we'll see what happens there. That's my overall feeling on the offense here for Florida. Yes, the offense on here in Florida against this Texas defense, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. There's not a lot of stats that lean toward us, but like I said, if we can just pass block well, give Aiden Warner time in the pocket, so he's not rolling out to the right side, and also run the ball against a rush defense that is not elite, we have a chance.
Love it. I completely agree. One quick thing that I will say, looking at some of the statistical profiles for Texas and their defense, it would appear that the Texas defense is really, really good statistically, but a lot of that comes from the fact that the Texas offense has scored getting the lead, which has forced the other team's offense out of its balanced attack game plan, which has made them a little bit more pass happy, which has allowed the Texas's run defense to be a little bit, uh, you know, you don't have to stop the run if the other team is throwing it all the time. And it allows Texas to tee off, come after the quarterback, and Texas's pass coverage with Jahady Barron. There's another really high rated guy, Michael Tafe, are really, really good, on the back end. That's sort of what it kind of looks like with Texas. Also, when you go back to a game that they played, or the 2 games that they played, where the teams that have forced them to be relatively balanced defensively were Georgia and Vanderbilt. Those were the 2 games where Texas legitimately was threatened with a team that they didn't have a big lead. Vanderbilt and Georgia didn't really have to worry about Texas running away with a 20-point lead. So now Texas is forced to play, defense against your full playbook on offense, which it turned out to be a little bit more in favor of Vanderbilt and Georgia when you do that. So the question in this game is, can Florida keep the score close and not get down by double digits quickly in this game? Because if they get down by double digits and now you have to mount a comeback with Warner. Now with Lagway, like you said, one play where, hey, one play, it could potentially be a touchdown. With Warner, now you're talking about 8, 9, 10 plays, and then maybe we score. So you cannot allow Texas to jump out on you. You have to lean into your defense early in the game, keep the score close, and see where you end up late in the game. If it gets into a point where we're down 2 touchdowns and now we have to throw the ball, hell, I would even, like Gus Malzahn it, where,
Yeah.
like if you go back to the UCF game, people are criticizing Gus Malzahn for running the ball when they're down 3 touchdowns. He was kind of like, hey, I'd rather be down 2 or 3 touchdowns than 4 or 5 touchdowns if we try to throw it into. So maybe we got to do that and see where it goes. I know it's going to be a little bit frustrating to watch, which it is when I
Yeah.
was finally like, oh my God, I'm excited to watch us with the ball now because of what the potential of any play with DJ Lagway back there. Now it's back to dink and dunk, but that's what we're gonna have to do and not make mistakes. And like you said, lean into the Florida offensive line, run the football, have success running the football. Texas is going to be prepared for a Florida running attack. I think we need to be a little bit more innovative with the running, with rushing the ball this game. It looks like we're back to the Napier running back rotation where it's this drive, it's Baugh, the next drive, it's Jackson. I, that if that's how he wants to do it, that's how he does it. But I would prefer if you have a guy that's just like tearing it up back there, stick with him until he says, I'm tired, it seems like we do the every other drive with the running back situation, um, which is a little weird. But I would do some wildcat. I would do anything it takes to just power the football, force Texas to come down, and then go deep. That's your game plan.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Napier doesn't adapt. You know what I'm saying? It's just like he has a plan going into these games and sticks with it. And the running back rotation is a great point. It's like, like he needs to do better at situational game planning. You know what I mean? Like with his play calling, it's like that. You know what I mean? With his rotations, we've seen that with the quarterback. And with the running back, it's like, dude, if one guy's going off, give it to him. If you're in a short yardage situation, give it to a guy that's going to put his head down and go forward. You know what I mean? It's just like Texas A&M did the same thing the other night with against who they play? Texas A&M.
South Carolina.
Blanking South Carolina, and it was a 4th and 1, and they let Marcel Reed do a quarterback sneak. This guy's like 180 pounds. You're not going to get first down doing that. They did get the first down, right, and it led to them losing the game. And you get Connor Wigman in there, a guy that's like 230, right? And that's my point. Same thing with this, right? Get a big body guy in there when there's short yardage situations. If you want a big breakout play, then put a guy like this is what I'm talking about, man. And I totally agree. His adaptation is it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating as a viewer. But I'm with you, man. You gotta try creative things. Good news is Napier is elite when it comes to being creative, running the football. You know what I mean? He's really good with these counters. These with the guard tackle counters. The GT. He loves doing that. He loves being very creative and pulling guards and stuff. So look, I'm not worried about that. I'm just, it's just gonna be a hard game to watch, and you've got to be creative in every other facet of the game. So we'll see what happens with this Florida offense. I really don't have much else to say other than, like I said, my game plan, man, run the football at least 4.8 yards a carry. You know what I mean? And like you said, don't make mistakes because you don't want to go down on this Texas team early on. Let our defense do what our defense does. Let them create turnovers. Let them put you in good situations and take advantage of those situations. That's what I think is the key to the game. I think you agree with that. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it's at I think it's at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. local time. So hopefully Texas is like a little sleepy, getting to the stadium.
Yeah.
And I would almost and Napier, this is how he does it. He comes up with a plan and he sticks to that plan pregame. So to me, the plan would be 12 to 15 passes max. Like I would not throw the ball in this game more than 15 times. I know that sounds like 15 passes, that's like nothing. Hell, we threw the ball 14 times against Kentucky. So throw the ball 15 times, like put up maximum passes in the game board. We're not throwing the ball more than 15 times. And then if that's sort of your mentality, the team knows when we snap the ball, we gotta put somebody on their ass in this game.
Yeah.
And that's what you gotta do. We're gonna drive these Longhorns back to the farm. Okay. We gotta hand the ball off to Jackson. Hopefully Montrell Johnson's back. He can get a little bit of the action. But we have got to possess the ball. Quinn Ewers is not statistically not having a great season. Arch Manning is much better statistically than Ewers. Ewers is, I think, is only like a 64 on PFF passing rating, which is kind of like below average. Arch Manning is much better. So and that's the other wild card is like, who the heck's playing quarterback in this game? We don't know. We hope it's Quinn Ewers because we feel like if we can get some pressure on him, um, he may make a mistake. And let's see what our DB situation is. I mean, if Devin Moore has been playing out of his world. I don't know what his injury was, but hopefully it's not serious. Um, we just got to go in there, play defense with our offense, throw the ball a maximum 15 times. Hopefully we can complete 7 or 8 of those passes with 0 interceptions. And if we can do that, I feel like we can keep this game close. I mean, our defense is good enough to hold Texas back if you force them to have to drive the ball every possession. If you give them the ball at the 30-yard line, because we decided to, Aiden Warner, drop back and, try to Cam Ward it. Okay, sack, interception, it's 21-0. Run the ball. Honestly, if we can just snap the ball to ball, just say ball, run it.
Yeah.
I would love to see that in this game. So let's see what happens. I kind of feel like we have an advantage in the sense that Texas knows that the film on 7 previous games is basically throw it out the window because we have no clue what they're going to do with Aiden Warner. And let's use that to our advantage. Let's come out and give them something that they probably don't expect. And I think we have an advantage. And then also don't do any blunders. Catch the snaps, catch the punts. Don't let special teams ruin the game for you. And if you can do that, I think we can keep this game relatively close. The only issue is I just don't think we will have enough firepower to outscore Texas. You just to beat Texas, you got to have a little bit of explosiveness. And that's the one area, like it would have to be like Iowa versus Texas. Iowa can hold you back, but eventually all you need to do is score 17 points, and you're probably going to. Iowa actually has been playing really well, so I don't know. But
yeah.
The old school Iowa.
Right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, man. It's funny you were like, okay, who we getting at quarterback? Even if we get Quinn Ewers, who are we getting with Quinn Ewers? Because there's games where he is accurate. Look at the Michigan game. This guy was playing like an NFL QB, reading the field beautifully, throwing dimes, you know what I mean? Also distributing the ball to multiple, I think like 8 to 9 different guys caught a ball in that game. Like he was just throwing the ball everywhere. But then there's games where he just plays like absolute garbage. Georgia, Oklahoma, just not having great passing grades, right? And so, yeah, Quinn Ewers it's just what Quinn Ewers are we getting in this game? Right. Their pass blocking has been pretty solid this season. It's usually been 76 or higher on the PFF grade scale. So that's something that they've done really well. So we're going to have to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, man. And to win this football game, we're going to have Quinn Ewers have a bad game. If Quinn Ewers is on it and he's throwing dots, we're losing this football game. There's no other way to put it. It's not going good. Thing is, our run defense has been solid as of recent, and Texas loves to run the football. Their running back that they love to get, well, they have 2 running backs they really like. You got Jaden Blue, but their main guy, Contravion Wisner. This guy, 400 rushing yards on the season, but he has some really good games, man. And when they run the football, they win football games. Look at the Georgia game. They had like 27 rushing yards, something insanely low. It was a horrible game running the ball for them. They had fumble. It was horrible. That's when Quinn Ewers had trouble passing the ball, right? If we can stop Texas from running the football, which they love to do because they love to, get, 2nd down and 3 and love to take shots down the field and create explosive plays. if we can stop Texas running the football when they want to, we have a chance on defense to make big plays and put Quinn Ewers in a bad situation and force him to have a bad game. My
Yep.
key to the game on defense here is to, number one, have Quinn Ewers have a bad game and hold Texas to 2.8 yards a carry or less. I know that's super low. I know that, but Georgia did it, okay? If we can hold them to about 2.8 yards a carry, that means they cannot run the football. And here's what I think we do. I know our like you said, our secondary is destroyed, but I think the game plan going into this game is to play a 5-man front, play aggressive stopping the run, and play very aggressive in the secondary. I'm saying cover one, man to man. You have to be aggressive here and force Quinn Ewers, because when he has an off game, he's very inaccurate. And if we do what we did in this Georgia game and kind of, play like a bailing corner, you know what I'm saying, and let them have these underneath throws, Carson Beck will hit those throws. But when it comes to tight windows, if he's having an off game, he's very, very inaccurate. When I mean inaccurate, I mean missing guys by like 5 to 10 yards. Like he plays really bad in some of these games when his confidence, and when he doesn't have a run game to rely on, when his confidence is down. So I think we sell out to stop the run, and we play aggressive with man-to-man coverage, and forcing Quinn Ewers to find these open guys, and to read this defense and have accurate passes. And that puts a lot of pressure on our linebackers, obviously, you know what I mean, in pass coverage. But one thing I will say, even against in the Georgia game, our play recognition has been pretty decent in the linebacking group. Shamar James had a few plays where on those screens with Georgia, he was there. He just barely missed him. He had a hand on those guys. Yeah. Exactly. Barely missed that tackle. Something that's huge. So like I said, you're putting a lot of pressure on your linebackers in pass coverage, but we've done a really good job on recognizing plays in situations like that. That's what I think we have to do. Some of you guys are probably going to think I'm stupid for playing aggressive in the secondary because we're down so many guys, but look, man, from what I've seen when Quinn Ewers has a bad game, and look, if Quinn Ewers is on it, then hey, you'll know in the first 2 drives because they'll score 2 touchdowns, right? So like, then you play the typical, play more conservative in the back end for Florida. But I think we come out 5-man front, play super aggressive, and make Quinn Ewers find those one-on-one matchups he likes, and see what happens. Because I mean, look, when you look at their wide receiver core, obviously you have Isaiah Bond, a guy who just is a big playmaker. But they also have a guy in Gunnar Helm at tight end who they love to get in this game. They love to get him involved. So I'm a little worried about that matchup because they do like to throw to him and like to get him on one-on-ones. But look, man, like I said, there's no easy way about it. You're going to have big explosive plays. They're going to hit you deep on a couple of these. But if we could just stop the run, hold them, like I said, to under 2.8 yards a carry, make Quinn Ewers inaccurate, make him have a rough game, this could be a really gritty game. And I mean gritty to the point where it could be 10-7 going into the fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? It can be that nasty of a football game. And that's what we're gonna have to do to win this game. But I could also see it being 35-7 going into the third quarter or the fourth quarter. So it could be either way. We're not looking. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough football game. But that's, I think, the key to the game for me on defense. We'll see what happens.
I love it, and I love your thought about that defensive strategy, because I don't think you can just approach this game like you've approached the other games. You've got to do something different. And in the Georgia game, we had these like 10 to 15 yard cushions where the cushion is further back than the first down marker. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, snap and immediate throw, first down. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm just like, okay, bring the corners up so that at least on the snap, the guy's not immediately wide open. And in this game against Ewers, I think you have to your point, make him not know where he's going with the ball before the ball snapped. I think if you give him a second or two to think, I think we'll have a chance to make something happen. It just goes back to this is a tug of war type of game. And unfortunately, with Lagway out, it's almost like taking one person off of our side and giving them an extra person. And so now the strategy has to be a little bit different. Maybe we have to put the stronger people up front to give a little bit more push or a little bit more pull. And we've got to figure out how to navigate a game where we can't expect to score more than 24 points. I think if we play this game like the Vanderbilt game, well, Pavia had 2 picks in that game.
Yeah.
So we've got to play the game similar to that, but know that our players, in theory, are more talented than the Vanderbilt players, but we've got to keep everything in front of us and force some mistakes from Texas and then capitalize. Um, and if we can do that, great. If not, it's gonna potentially not be very good for
That's an easy way to put it.
us.
Dude, I'm glad we're on the same exact page with all that. It's actually really very funny. We had the same kind of thought. We'll see what happens. There's really, like you said, no way to know how we're gonna approach this because we haven't been in a situation like this. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
you're on your third string quarterback. Like, he has a whole week of preparation. The thing is guess what? Texas is coming off of a bye week. That's not good too. That's also horrible, which means they've had 2 weeks of prep for us. And guess what? Guess what we're doing next week? They come off of another bye. It's just like we're in such that was Georgia. We're in such a rough situation here. We just have Texas, a great football team coming off of a bye, a top 5 team, prepping just for us. And even though it's a little bit different now that Lagway is down, I mean, they have an offensive game plan that they've been prepping for, and that Austin's gonna be rocking, man, because they cannot afford another loss. They're trying to make it to the SEC championship. They need this. I mean, good news is all the SEC teams are beating each other up. I mean, there's no undefeated conference play SEC team anymore now that Texas A&M went down to South Carolina, but you have to win this game if you're Texas. You have to win it, and this is major. Hopefully they don't throw stuff at our players like they did at the Georgia game. But we'll see. It's going to be one hell of an environment, even though it's a 12 o'clock game. Big moment. Ada Warner hopefully goes off. Beautiful weather. It's going to be about 70 degrees at kickoff. Gorgeous weather. Good news is it's not going to be freezing there, so our players won't be, too. It's not like one of those Vandy late season games that we've had in the past where it's 11 a.m. kickoff and it's like 50 degrees and our boys are out there like, it's brutal. So that is one good thing is the weather's not going to be too big of an impact. Not too windy, I don't believe either, is what it said on the weather app. Obviously can change as we continue to go on, but yeah, man. Like I said earlier, have to force a turnover on defense and have to get a touchdown off of that. And, we'll see. We'll see. Those are my thoughts and my keys to the game. Actually, let me go over my keys to the game one more time. Offensively, run the football, have at least 4.8, almost 5 yards of carry, and then get one touchdown off of a turnover. Defensively, Quinn Ewers has to have a bad game, inaccurate game, and we have to hold Texas to 2.8 yards of carry. I'm scared of Arch Manning. We haven't really talked about him a lot. I know you mentioned him. I'm a little worried about that because he is a much better passer. It looks like he's a little more natural of a passer. Beautiful ball as well. And adds an he's a fast kid, dude. This guy, he probably runs like a nice 4.7, you know what I mean? He's quick with it, not like, his uncles. Definitely a lot more like his dad. But very quick. So he adds an element of running the football, which, by the way, you look in the past, rushing quarterbacks against us has not been good.
No.
So I'm a little worried about that, but we'll see, man. We'll see.
Why
what
can't
happens.
they institute in-season portal transfers? Okay, Arch Manning, you're not QB1. Come over to Florida.
Yeah.
Just
Like the
work
NFL.
your way over here.
Yeah.
Like in season, like you're on one team and then now you're on the other team. Like,
Could you imagine?
we would love that right now with our situation. Like,
Yeah.
what is the likelihood? We at the beginning of the year, we're like, who's going to be our quarterback? Graham Mertz or DJ Lagway? Now it's like in the crucial stretch of the season, neither one. So it's just really demoralizing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We'll see what happens. I didn't even predict a score yet, so EJ, I'll let you go first here, man. If you don't have anything else to add, I don't know if you have anything else to add. If not, we could do a score prediction here.
Yeah, let's do. I'll do a one key for. I think for offense,
Go for it.
15 passes max. Like I said, that will. If I look at the box score and I see that we only attempted 15 passes, I'd say we at least had a game plan. Um, and then I think on defense, um, I would say again 3 sacks on whoever is back there getting the ball. If we can get 3 sacks, what 3 sacks tells you is you're you're closing the decision-making window of the quarterback. You're forcing uh passes into potential coverage and you're getting intercept. Now we got 2 sacks against Georgia, which is incredible because in the previous 7 games, they only gave up 8 sacks, which is like one a game. So we were able to double their average. We were 1 sack away from, I think, being a game change, because if you get one more sack in this game, if it was on that 3rd and 7 when we were 6 minutes to go in the game, I mean, the game's probably much different.
Yeah.
But 3 sacks. So with that said, I think this game is going to look a lot like the Georgia game because I do think Georgia is materially a better team than Texas. I just think Texas, they're able to beat teams because they get them out of their game plan. I think Florida has a wild card in that Texas is going to struggle to do that because even though they've had a bye week, they don't know. They wasted an entire week preparing for DJ Lagway. And now this week, it's like, okay, what the hell are they going to do with Aiden Warner? So I think that kind of goes in our favor a little bit. I think it's going to look a lot like the Georgia game where we are putting up a fight. The game is relatively low scoring. But I just don't see us scoring more than 16 points in the game. And I think Texas will eventually seal the deal. I'm going to go Texas 27, Florida 16 in this game. I just think they're not going to hit their scoring average, but in a game in which you're playing, it's almost like playing your little brother in a game of pickup basketball where it's kind of like, he can't really score on me.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And so it's like all I need to do is score 3 baskets and it's over. That's pretty much I think how this game is going to go.
Yeah.
Eventually in the second half, Texas is going to score 1 touchdown that's going to put the game on ice, and Florida's not going to be able to, navigate that. I think it's going to be heavy field goals for us. So I'm going to go 27-16 Texas.
Yeah, everything you said, I'm with you, man. I think it'll be a hard-fought game early on. I think this team wants to play now they wanted to play for Mertz. Now I think it's even Lagway's injury gives them even more of a reason to fight. I think you're going to see a fight. There's no reason to think that this team's going to give up because under Napier, we've seen them, especially this year, fight, right? And they're gritty and they're nasty and they play with an emotion that you just love to see. I think I don't think Florida's going to go down early. I think we're going to fight a little bit. I think it's going to be especially in the first and early second quarter, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think second half, though, I think it's going to be a little close, but I think Texas is going to start pulling away. I think the injuries force is going to show a little bit. I think they're going to start running the ball a little bit on us. I think they're going to have to bring in Arch Manning a little bit, and that's going to really affect us. So I have the final score being 31-10 Texas. So we're not too far off of each other there. Offensively, I think we're just not going to score any points really in the second half. It's just going to be one of those games, while Texas is just kind of holding the ball, you know what I mean? Might just play the possession game a little bit in the second half, you know what I mean? Just kind of hold the ball, score a little bit of points there. So because of that, I have Texas winning 31-10. It's gonna look a lot
Okay.
uglier than what the game actually is. I think we're gonna fight. I could see it being 17-10. At halftime. Something crazy like that where it's a one possession game and the world's shocked a little bit, but then it just kind of falls apart. So
Yeah, I just I see that too. I think that's a good pick.
yeah. So we'll see it hurts though, man. It hurts me a little bit. We'll see what happens. Always cheering on for the Gators. We'll see. We will see there. Cool. So do you wanna talk about the upcoming schedule and how we're feeling, EJ? So obviously we want to look ahead here. And see the schedule we have coming up. After of course losing DJ Lagway, which, look, there is a possibility we get him back for Florida State. That is a possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but we'll see. He's not obviously on crutches. They're doing an MRI today, and they said that they would let us know Wednesday what his status was. So we'll kind of see what happens there. So obviously this weekend we're playing at Texas, which we think is an L. We both think that's not going to end very well for us. And after that we have LSU at home. We have 2 home games in a row. We got LSU and then Ole Miss. LSU, a team who is looking very up and down. That's what you're going to get with Brian Kelly. You know what I mean? As a coach, he's a guy who's going to win big games, not win the big games he needs to win, but then, play games that he should win, and then he loses some of those, but then mostly he's all over the place. So we'll see what happens. LSU is a team, which, by the way, man, I have a lot of LSU friends. They hate Florida. They hate Florida almost as a lot of them hate Florida more than Bama. They hate the Florida Gators. They hate everything about us. Our history with LSU is crazy. We've ruined some of their seasons. They've ruined some of ours. And of course, shoe toss, Joe Burrow pick 6. You can go on and on about how crazy it's been. 2019, we go into Death Valley with Joe Burrow, and Kyle Trask goes, neck and neck with Joe Burrow throwing the football. Remember that? That was unbelievable. So, we've always been the thorn in the side, the Achilles, heel to LSU. So we'll see what happens there, man. How do you feel about that game, EJ? Do you think, as of now, obviously we'll dive into it deeper, but do you think that maybe we can get something done there? What's your thoughts on first home game since Kentucky?
Oh man, yeah. I think I'm happy we talked about the Texas game um, before this segment because I think the Texas game will reveal what our approach will be for the rest of the season. Um, from a matchup standpoint, LSU is probably the most even matchup, which makes sense because if you watch the last 5 games against LSU, I think we've lost, I want to say 5 in a row or 6 in a row to them. Believe it. I don't know how you hate us if you beat us every year. Um, all of those games have been like voodoo magic, something you never expect to happens in the LSU game. Um, 2018, the Brad Stewart interception, pick 6 was the last time we beat them. 2019, like you said, we had a great game plan. They still were 2 touchdowns better because they had the best team, arguably one of the top teams in college football history that year. 2020, I think we go 2020. Did we come?
That was in the swamp. That was the toss, the shoe toss.
Okay, that was the shoe toss. Okay, the shoe toss game. Can we all agree that was like, of course, that would be against LSU. 2021, we go into that season. I'm thinking, okay, statistically, we're a little bit better. We were playing Anthony Richardson, but they ran like a counter every other play that ended up being 20 yards of counter on average, and they went 49-42. 2022 comes around. Okay, maybe we beat them again. We're playing them at home. And then what happens is this kid named Jaden Daniels, who we didn't know too much about, they beat us 45-35. I'm like, what the heck is this guy? Like, he's running all over us. Then the next year, 2023, we go back there. we scored 35 points on them. They didn't have a good defense, but we give up 52, and it looked like it was a record-breaking.
Yeah.
I Our defense might as well not even been out there. I mean, they probably would have had a harder time scoring against air. Like you go practice mode on the game, and the defense isn't out there. They probably would have had a harder time catching the ball in that mode than with our defense out there. So now we get to 2024, and it's like, okay, LSU's got they've got a really balanced attack. It's one of the hopes that we have is that they play Alabama the week before, so hopefully they get a little bit banged up in that game and they put all their eggs in the basket to try to beat Alabama. Both those teams had a bye week this week. And they come into our game a little bit banged up, and maybe we get a couple guys back for the LSU game. Um, that's one of our hopes. I think statistically, LSU does not take the top off of teams, but they hang in games, and Nussmeier is typically a good decision maker. And at the end of the day, when you're playing good quarterback after good quarterback after good quarterback, it's difficult for your defense to maintain its positivity, its belief in themselves. So hopefully something will go good for us in that game. That's going to be difficult though, to play them regardless of where it is. Just because I just feel like something's going to happen that LSU comes out on top.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I'm gonna say it's gonna be an L. I with DJ, it's a different story. You know what I mean? DJ, it's a
Oh
different
yeah,
story
for
because
sure.
Gus Nussmeier or Garrett Nussmeier can make mistakes. He throws interceptions, right? And I think with DJ, we can take advantage of that. But we'll see what I don't. No telling, man. No telling. Good news is the Swamp's gonna be rocking. And hopefully that does something for us. Next week after that, we play the Ole Miss Rebels, man. We have Lane Kiffin coming in the Swamp, which is very
Ooh.
poetic, maybe. We'll see what happens with that. Ole Miss, a team that, listen, if you could stop their run, because they like to run the football, you can force Jackson Dart to make some tough throws. Jackson Dart's a very inconsistent quarterback. He's really not a good quarterback. He makes some good throws here and there, but he's just really not good. Their pass blocking has been very iffy this season as well. So if you can get pressure on Jackson Dart, he's just all over the place throwing the football. We've seen that with Kentucky and a couple other teams. So look, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, pass blocking has been bad. But their secondary has been absolute garbage. So good news is our pass blocking has been good. But so we can make some plays deep down the field, passing the football, we'll see what happens. Bad news is we have Aiden Warner as our quarterback, not DJ Lagway. So all that gets thrown out the window. Will this be a win? I feel like we actually can win this game a little bit more than I say. We have the thing is though too, secondary. How healthy is our secondary? You know what I mean? If we have a very healthy secondary, we can get some guys back. You know what I mean? If Devin Moore can get back, because I think Jason Marshall's done for the rest of the season. But if we can get Devin Moore back here, I think that's good for us. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. So, but if not, it's going to be a rough game. I think we do get Devin Moore back, and this is going to be a hard-fought game, but I have an L here as well. So we'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Is that not the response? Um, Another one of those games where you have DJ Lagway, we have a chance to have more points. Ole Miss, so this is going to be another one of those storyline games. Ole Miss has one of those what I like to call non-adaptive offenses, if that makes sense.
Mm.
It Heupel and Kiffin have very similar offensive philosophies. We basically have 8 plays that everything revolves around. And everything revolves around, to your point, run up the middle, quick halfback dive up the middle. If that play is working, it opens up our passes to the outside and our deep ball down both sidelines. If you can stop that run, which we did against Tennessee, it forces the Lane Kiffin or in Josh Heupel's offense into kind of a box because they're not very adaptive. Like Carson Beck is an NFL offense. They run complex routes. They can make a lot of different adjustments. if you can set up a defensive game plan similar to Kentucky, you can stop the Ole Miss offense. Um, it's just, can you score on them? Now, I think we're just going to have to pull out the Kentucky game plan and just say, hopefully, our defense can just completely stop you. And hell, let's put a wide receiver at quarterback and run that and run, baby, run.
Yep.
Ole Miss's defense statistically has been really, really good this year. They've held teams below their averages. They've gotten after the quarterback. They've gotten a lot of sacks. Princely Uman is out there sacking people. So, that's going to be sort of the game plan. Let's just Kentucky it against them and see what we can do. But to your point, I just think they're going to end up having more points at the end of the game. You have to be able to score in the modern college football. If you don't have the Baltimore Ravens back there as your defense, which a lot of teams don't have now, you got to be able to score.
Yep.
And, if we're just unable to score, we're not going to have that a good of a chance.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We'll see what happens there. And then we got at Florida State, man. I'm just going to call it right now. Screw it. Maybe this is an emotional pick, but I think Florida's going to win this football game. I don't know how you could pick Florida State. They just got killed by a North Carolina team that's bad. They are a bad football team. They have not played well this year, and they just got demolished. What was 33-11? We picked it last week. I mean, what was it? 35-11, dude. Got destroyed. Florida State only 11 points, 1 touchdown in the third quarter. Throwing 2 interceptions in the game. They're so bad. They don't know what's going on. I think this would be a win for Florida no matter what. You know what I mean? I mean, we almost beat them last year with our backup, so why not this year? I have Florida win this football game and getting a win here in Doak Campbell Stadium.
Yeah, I think in theory this would be a win even with Aiden Warner, just because I think if you just said we're only throwing the ball 10 times, the Florida State defense is that bad to where we're just a locomotive running down the field, scoring every time. And then our defense is materially better than even the defenses that Florida State is currently playing, that we would just run them over. And we would force them to have to throw the ball into our defense, which we're actually intercepting the ball now. So then it starts to get out of control. Mm-hmm. And that's even with Aiden Warner. With DJ Lagway, if he comes back, it's going to be even worse. The only issue, though, is what is going to be the mental state of the team by the time we get to that game against Florida State. If we get hammered by Texas and then LSU pulls out the smoke in the swamp and you remember the smoke? Where the hell did the smoke come from in the 20 shoe toss?
I don't know. I genuinely it was so foggy in there. You couldn't see anything at all. It was crazy. On TV, you could barely. It was like remember the Oregon State game? It was like 3 years ago. It was like the all green versus the all orange or whatever. You couldn't see a single thing. That makes sense. That's on the Pacific. You know what I mean? You guys get fog over there. It made no sense in the swamp. I don't know, man. It's crazy.
So I was in the marching band at Florida A&M, and I remember we did a show in the Georgia Dome, and what they did when, for the band to come out, and we never practiced this, was the fire extinguishers, and we're marching out and the fire extinguishers will kind of look cool, but the issue was it's a dome, and so the smoke did not go anywhere, and I'm inhaling. I don't know if you ever inhaled the freaking fire extinguisher, but I'm literally almost passed out on the field, and I'm kind of did we not have was there a dome over the swamp? Why is this? Of course it would happen against LSU. So we threw the shoe into the smoke, and then now all of a sudden we're losing the game.
Threw the shoe into the smoke. It just disappeared. You know what I mean? I wish the refs wouldn't have seen it. It's crazy.
Yes,
man.
I think we will beat FSU regardless. But like I said, what's the mental state of the team? Did we give up by that time? Are they firing Napier at that time? That is the only wild card going into that game. Also, I forgot to say about Ole Miss. They also have a bye week before they play us in the Swamp. So the schedule is
Jesus,
more
man.
than just how tough it looks. It's like
That's
everyone,
insane.
Georgia had a bye week before us. Texas has
Texas.
a bye week before us. LSU actually has a tough game against us, but we are also playing Texas. And Ole Miss has a bye week before us. And then Florida
Unbelievable.
State probably has their only potential win of the season. They basically have a, I don't even know if you can call it bye week, but they do play Charleston Southern right before us. So that's sort of like a bye week because believe it or not, Charleston Southern is also 1-8 and one of the worst teams in the FCS. So Florida State basically has a bye week before us. So
Well, I don't
what?
know. They're so bad. They gotta prep for every game possible, man. They gotta win, man. Remember Jackson? Was it Jacksonville State? You gotta be careful.
True, true, true. And Charleston Southern, they haven't really all their games have been relatively close, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been like blown out. But again,
Right.
that's the only question. What is the mental state of this team? Because we're projecting them to lose 4 games in a row going into this game against Florida State. So are we going to be beat up? Are we going to be healthy? Are we going to be on our fourth string quarterback? Because all it takes is for Aiden Warner to get smacked by one of these 200-pound linebackers from Texas, LSU, or Ole Miss. All of these are really good defenses. And now what the hell are we doing? Are we bringing out? Are we wildcatting the rest of the season? So there's a lot of things before that FSU game that makes me still question. But if it were played tomorrow, I think we would easily win, even with Warner.
Yeah. Well, also too, I think we might have an identity with Warner at quarterback at that time, which gives me hope. You know what I'm saying? And that we kind of know what his
True.
strengths are, whatever. But that kind of goes into my next thing, and we don't got to spend too long on this. But what if this does happen and we project to be losing 4 games in a row here? What do you think? My camera keeps freezing, by the way. Sorry about that. But whenever
Oh,
how do you feel about Napier's job security at that point? Do you like, because here's the thing, man, this team's fighting for Billy Napier, so that's a positive. Do we force him to hire an offensive coordinator? That's kind of what I'm leaning to. So I think as a CEO, he gets his players to fight for him and gets his players to be behind him and knows his program. What they said about what's really cool, something that jumped out at me during the Georgia broadcast, is they said that they that he shows like a 15 to 20 minute video about the history of the rivalries before they play. You know what I mean? He makes his players understand how important these games are and you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just how big and important these games are to not only the program but the university as a whole. So he's a good CEO as a head coach. What would you do, EJ, if we do lose these 4 games in a row? Do you think we just fire, go get maybe Kurt Cignetti from Indiana and do a full reset? Or do you like that he already is established at this program, his buyout's a lot of money, and that we just force him to get an offensive coordinator? But do you think Strickland will even do that? That's the situation we're in.
the plot thickens, my friend, every freaking week. You know what I mean? Eh, at the end of the day, people are going to look at the results and they're going to say, we've we're one in well now we're 1-9. I think after LSU will be 1-10 against our rivals. Um, how do we look in these games coming up? Or do we look competitive? Do we look like we've just given up completely? Um, that's going to be one of the primary factors. If it looks like we're just giving up, like that South Carolina game against Dan Mullen, where it's just they're just destroying us. Um, I think that could be the nail in the coffin. But I do think a lot of Gator fans, and I'm sort of there too, um, will give Napier a hall pass, given the fact that both of your starting quarterbacks are out. Like, what would Texas be doing if Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers are both out for the season? You know,
Yeah.
like what would their fans be doing right now? But the question is, though, that tends to happen a lot with Napier. You know, like our quarterbacks are always getting injured, and then when you put the third string guy in there, he's incapable of doing anything. And so it's kind of like, is that Napier's fault, or is that just bad luck? I think how it will play out is assuming the team shows some fight and some resilience and beats Florida State at the end of the year, and DJ Lagway comes back for the FSU game, um, I think there's probably a 55 to 60% chance that Napier is retained and he's given another 2025 because I think looking at how the team has responded, looking at what the potential is with a full season of Lagway, I think you've got that opportunity. Plus, returning all these young guys, plus, having, just the opportunity to play a full season. The only issue that you risk is number one, the recruiting class currently is not really that good. We don't have a lot of commits right now. The each player per average is really, really good. I think we'd be close to the top 10 if you're just looking at player by player average rating. But when you look at the size of the class, we are only one third of the class right now. And we're basically a month out or 6 weeks from early signing day with only 6 or 7 guys signed. So that's not boding well for Napier going into next season either, which means we're going to have to portal it, which means is not good because look at FSU. They portaled half their team and no one knows the plays. No one knows
Yeah.
the playbook.
Yeah.
So so it's like, what the hell is happening out there? But I think that's how it's going to go. I think if the team falls apart and we start getting thrashed, um, it gets interesting. It gets interesting with the Lane Kiffin discussion and the Kurt Cignetti discussion. Kurt Cignetti from Indiana will be probably the top coach for any major openings. And right now, I'm not really seeing a lot of major openings right now, other than the Florida job. Um, I see some sort of mid-tier teams, but the high-paying jobs, this Florida job is the only job that's open. And the reality is, if you're going to get a guy like Signetti or a guy like Kiffin, you only have this year to do it because I think next year they're probably not on the table anymore.
So if you're the AD, EJ, what do you do?
Oh,
That's my question.
I mean, I can tell you what I would do, and I would tell you what Strickland would probably do.
Let's
What
hear
I
that.
would do is, I would say, look, uh, the team is actually legitimately good. I mean, we're playing the most difficult schedule in the country, and we're holding toe to toe, assuming that we do that in these last 4 games. I think if you now next year's schedule is still pretty tough. I think we say, listen, Napier, you got to make a change here. You've got because I think if you risk losing DJ Lagway to the transfer portal, I I would rather not do that. Um, so I would say, listen, hire an offensive coordinator, just like you said. To me, honestly, I'd bring in Scott Frost, the guy he was at UCF for a little bit. I'd say, hey, look, the whole offense is yours. Do your thing with DJ Lagway. I'm going to focus on making sure we don't snap the ball 30 yards in the opposite direction in the biggest game of the year. And then double down on your defensive staff. I think we can come back with a great defense in 2025. And let's see what we can do in 2025. And then I think we can move on. I think if we make the decision too quickly when the team is fighting, it could really go off the rails because I think a lot of the players will transfer out. All of these players that we see playing really well will say, you know what, we fought really hard for Napier, and now y'all are going to fire him. Let me hit the portal. Let me go somewhere else. And then we're going to, with that coupled with we don't have a recruiting class, 2025 is going to be a complete, I mean, it's going to be we're going to look like we're probably going to look like FSU at
Mm.
that point. So how do you build on that? I mean, it's like 2027. You're basically saying 2027 is the year that we at least want to have a winning record. So that's how I would approach it. I would probably lean towards giving Napier one more season, assuming that he can get an offensive coordinator and DJ Lagway comes back, as opposed to getting rid of him and then having 80% attrition and being Florida State next year. A lot of fans are like, well, I'm willing to risk that because look how bad we are. I'm like, yeah, I don't think we should do that.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I here's my thing, man. You pointed out the record against the rivals. That's unbelievable. That is so depressing. That is not the Gators standard. And honestly, I'll do the same thing. I'll say what I would do and what I think Scott. You didn't say that. What do you think Scott Strickland's going to do?
Oh, I think Strickland is going to, I think he's going to lean towards keeping Napier. Um, and I think the Florida State game, if Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss fall off the rails, I think he will not have a choice but to move on from Napier. Um, and he'll give him an opportunity to finish the season by coaching that game against Florida State. But the issue is who, what's the timing for bringing in a new coach? I don't think Strickland is going to be in a position where he can fire Napier without a clear candidate that's going to come in. I think if you fire him and just like, well, let's pray that someone accepts our job, you're in a bad situation. So I think he's probably going to lean on keeping Napier, assuming that we can fight in these last few games. If it falls off the rails and we're losing these games by 20, 30 points a game, I think he makes the decision the week up of the Florida State game that this is Napier's last game. Let's make an announcement. Let's go out there and play for him, and then we're just going to have to move on. So I think that's what he's going to do, which is why I really hope the team fights for Napier if they want to keep him around.
That's why I hate early signing day, like you were stating, because you either have to fire Napier right after the Texas game, so you can let a new guy come in and start recruiting right away, or you're gonna fire him right after the Florida State game, like you were saying, or at that point, and then he comes in after early signing day when all these other players have already signed. I don't know why. Like, honestly, I don't see a positive for early signing day. I think it's an absolute joke. Why don't we go back to National Signing Day? I don't know. It ruins
Completely
the whole
agree.
it ruins everything. What has that added? And it was a very unpopular decision to get early signing day. So I don't know why NCAA is a joke, as we all know. So I don't know. Understand that. What I agree. I think what Scott Strickland's going to do is I think he's going to keep him another year. I think no matter what, he really keeps. I honestly think that. I think that Scott Strickland put all his eggs in this basket. I think if you fire Billy Napier, then Scott, he's on the chopping block. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what I think. So I think he has to keep Billy Napier no matter what happens. But if you get demolished by Texas, if you get demolished by LSU and Ole Miss, even with your third string quarterback, man, I don't know. I don't know what they do. Here's what I would do. Billy Napier would already be fired if I was the AD. I think it's so unacceptable to have that record, but for away games and record against rival teams. I know we're getting better this season, but why in the world are we okay with losing like 42-17 against Miami and getting destroyed by Texas A&M at home? Like that's so unacceptable for the Gator standard, and we talked about this the first podcast episode we had, episode 1. It's become normal, and that's scary. I don't want to become Nebraska. And that is what's terrifying. But yeah, the timing is so, there's no right or wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, like you said, we got a lot of young, great guys on this football team. Our wide receiver core is probably a top 10 wide receiver core in college football, I think. They're unbelievable.
Yep.
Billy Napier's offense is horrendous, though. It's so bad. The scheme is not good. So, but he's a great CEO. So listen, if I'm AD, I would fire him. But listen, that's probably not. I'm probably have people telling me in my ear not to do that. Billy Napier's buyout also goes down by almost $10 million next year, so that's a big thing. You know what I mean?
That's another one. Yeah.
So that's important. So here's what I do, and we've already talked about it. I'm forcing him to hire an offensive coordinator. I'm saying, Billy, if you don't agree with this, I'm going to fire you. But I'll be like, right now, you are going to hire an offensive coordinator. You're not going to have a single say in this offense except for the run game. You can develop, you could do your GT counters you love to do, and you know your run scheme, which is very elite. His run scheme is elite. It is. So, by the way, this running back coach, whoever we have, I love that guy. He's doing amazing with these RBs. I don't know who he is, but God, he's amazing. So you're doing great with the run scheme, but the passing game, the play calling cannot be you because your situational play calling is so bad. It's so bad. So you have to hire an OC. I don't care who it is. I don't care how much money you need to get rid of your 2 offensive line coaches who has the most mediocre offensive line we've had in a long time here at University of Florida. Get rid of one of them. Keep Rob Sale. I don't care. And then then use that money for the extra thing. Get rid of some of your analysts, which what are your analysts even doing? Doesn't make any sense. Get rid of a couple of them. We have the biggest budget, I believe, in college football for when it comes to your administration, your football administration. So put those funds to use. Fire a few people. I know Billy Napier doesn't want to fire people because that's a hard conversation to have, but get rid of a few people. And by the way, we don't need 2 co-defensive coordinators. That's the dumbest thing ever. I don't understand that at all. Has it helped us? It has helped us a little bit, but the only reason it's helping us is because we have Austin Armstrong back on the field. You know what I mean? Like, he's the one making the difference. So I don't know why we get rid of Ron Roberts. That's going to save you $1 million. And then get an offense coordinator. Drop a bag on this, because I'm telling you right now, the amount of young talent we have, like you were saying, you know, this is every offensive coordinator's dream, to have one of the best wide receiver cores in the country, to have one of the best running back groups in the country, to have a star quarterback in DJ Lagway, which has the chance to be a Heisman winning quarterback. Only thing you got to work on is offensive line, but guess what? If you hit the transfer portal, guns a-blazing, and get a couple tackles, a guard, you have a national championship contending team, especially at least playoff contending team.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do if I'm the AD. Billy Napier would already be fired, but in the situation we're in now, let him finish out the rest of the year. Force him to hire an offensive coordinator, and that's what I would do. So that's kind of I think we're both in the same boat.
I like that. I like that. And you know, Jabbar Jalouk is our running back. That guy is great. Who's it? Russ Callaway is also like the co-offensive coordinator, but he also coaches the tight ends. Maybe you get rid of him. I completely agree. I think at the end of the day, you got to sit down with this, because this roster, you cannot. What is the best situation for Florida near and long term? Is it to keep Billy Napier and then, like you said, go get I have been saying Scott Frost, because I think if he was an offensive coordinator, not a head coach, but offensive coordinator, with these players, with the roster, he could actually do something special, or anybody else. You give Lane Kiffin our current roster right now, or any good offensive mind, we could be a national championship contending team. The reality of the situation is, I just don't think if you got rid of Napier, that's the better solution if you don't already have one of your top coaches lined up. Like, if somebody told you, Logan, okay, if we're guaranteed to get Kurt Signetti next year, what would you say? But you're going to have 40% attrition. So you're going to lose 30 players. We're not going to tell you which 30 players are going to transfer out. We're going to lose 30 players. What would you take that, or would you say I'd rather keep Napier, get an elite offensive coordinator, retain 70 players out of our 80, and then see what we can do in 2025? What would you rather do?
I'm going Kurt Signetti for mainly. Here's why. Here's why. Here's why. He has no talent on that Indiana team, and he brought them from a 3-9 to a what 8-0 for the first time in Indiana history. Even if we lose some major guys, which I think Trey Wilson will probably be gone, DJ Lagway will probably be gone, this is a guy that can go in the portal, get a bunch of guys, and he can win. Only negative with him specifically in this situation is his age. Billy Napier's a lot younger, right? Billy Napier's, I believe, in his late 40s, right? I think. I don't know, but he's around there, I think. So maybe like 50. But he has a lot more years on him. So I don't know. Here's my thing though, EJ. They've asked Billy Napier about his offensive coordinating. He's like, no, it keeps me in the game. Everywhere Billy Napier has been, he's been an offensive coordinator. I do not think that Billy Napier's going to cave in to an offensive coordinator thing. You know what I mean? If I say, yo, we're going to fire you or you're going to be I think he would rather be fired. I really do. I think he wants control of the offense. He even said himself it keeps him in the game. That's horrible to hear from a head coach, that you have to be an offensive coordinator to stay in a game. Because of that, I'm getting Kurt Signetti. I think he has a national championship mindset. I think he's more emotional. He's cocky. He has that Steve Spurrier type vibe. You know, they asked him, "Hey, who are you?" He said, "Google me, I win." I love that stuff. I love that stuff.
Google me.
Google me. I love that, and I think and listen, that's a very tough situation because, like I said, you're losing big time players. I get it. But I'm coming at it from the mindset of, no, listen, if Billy Napier is like, okay, cool, I'll get an offensive coordinator, I'll step back, whatever, that's great. I would love that. Like, I would probably rather choose that. But he's not going to. He's not. He's gonna, even if he hires an offensive coordinator, he's still gonna be running the offense. He might not be the play caller, but he's gonna be like, hey, this is the style of offense you need to run. I guarantee it. I guarantee EJ. He's that like tough-headed guy. But listen, I would love to, if Kurt Signetti was, if I was calling him, if he was on the podcast today, we asked him, hey, would you come to the University of Florida? He said, yes, I'm getting him. I'm firing Billy Napier. I'm bringing him in. And, because by the way, he runs offense, and guess what? His offense has been unbelievable every single where he went. Let's talk about, and we're going to get to it after this, and we're going to touch on it a little bit because we obviously did the Indiana-Michigan State game. O'Rourke comes back in. By the way, backup quarterback last week, and they put up over 30 points against that defense. This is what I'm talking. Like, I don't know, but I understand the camp of keeping Billy Napier. I totally get it because there's a lot of young guys too. A lot of these talented guys are very, very young guys. I get that. But he has to. I just don't think he's going to be willing to hire an offensive coordinator. I really don't. I think he's so hard headed. I think he's gonna be like, no, this is my way, or no way at all. So, but we'll see. So if Billy Napier is willing to step back and get an offensive coordinator, I think that's the better choice. But I'm ready for change. I'm that's why I'm going Kurt Signetti. But I totally understand the keeping him for a year. But I swear, bro, if we keep him for another year and we do not get an offensive coordinator, I don't know. I don't know what I do. I don't know. I honestly don't know what I would do. That's just me.
Cry. That's
Exactly.
That's the only thing we could do.
Yep.
Man.
Unreal. Yeah. I that's all I got to say on the situation. I don't know what else. If you want to add anything else to that, man.
I mean, I'm just taking a look at our schedule next year.
Yeah, let me look at that too. I haven't seen that.
It's difficult yet again. So my nephew plays for USF. So
Okay.
we will be playing USF next year on September 6th in Ben Hill Griffin. USF is a decent program. They're a really good team. Alex Golish is a really good coach. But here's the thing. Alex Golish hired an offensive coordinator, and he's an offensive coach. So Billy Napier doesn't make any sense, but whatever. We also play my other alma mater, Florida A&M on October 11th. So I'm happy about that. And So we basically play all Florida teams
That's
next year.
crazy. That is so
Um,
cool.
because we have to play Miami in Hard Rock on September 20th. And then we also play FSU. So
That's
all of our
crazy.
four games are against Florida teams, which I think is great.
Wow.
But then when you look at the SEC schedule, Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee,
Jesus.
Texas, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M.
Georgia.
So it's still a very difficult schedule. And it's a odd season, meaning it's 2025 is an odd year. And here's the thing about odd years. Um, they are not good for us schedule wise because when we play Georgia on an odd year, the game in Jacksonville is considered a home game. So what that means is we only get three SEC games on odd years in the swamp, and we have to play five games away from the swamp in the SEC. So we have to play four true road games plus the game against Georgia in Jacksonville.
These are brutal too. These away games. Oh my god.
Yeah, and they're brutal.
Jesus.
And the thing is, if you look at our national championships, they've only fallen on even years. Those are years where the schedule's a little bit favorable. Kind of, even though this year's a tough schedule, it's favorable if we were a good team because four of our conference games are at home. Ole Miss and LSU, in theory, are at home. Um, so so there you go. So the odd year is going to be really tough. So how do you navigate a schedule like that next season if you have attrition, if you have significant attrition of some of these key playmakers? Um, I just don't think you can. So let's see what happens. You know, it is a tough, tough situation to be in if you're a gator.
Yeah, that is brutal. That is so brutal. Love that, man. Well, we'll see. Like I said, man, best case scenario is Billy Napier steps aside and he lets, he listens and hires an offensive coordinator. I just don't think he'll do that, but we'll see what happens. All right. Enough of that. Let's dive into this previous week's picks that we had. It was a brutal week for us, EJ. Brutal, man. We both went 4-7.
Holy mother.
Yeah, not fun. We're gonna go through these games pretty quick. Just want to kind of touch on a few of them. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on this or this upcoming week's picks, but we're gonna give it to you guys. Ohio State at Penn State. Ohio State favored by 4. I picked Ohio State. You picked Penn State. Ohio State gets the win. Penn State, bro, leading most of this game and just falls apart in the second half, only scoring 3 points. And yeah, Ohio State gets ahead and wins this game 20-13. Listen, great game here by Ohio State. Penn State inside the 5-yard line twice and came up with 0 points. That's the key stat of the game. And yeah, Ohio State, man, good team. Chip Kelly called a phenomenal game, just distributed the ball very, very well. Yeah, great game by Ohio State.
Yeah. Again, I'll just say real quick on this one. Uh, I said going to the game that, okay, I will believe in James Franklin for one game. He's just like Billy Napier when it comes to we can't beat our rivals. He's not going to beat any of the elite teams. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you have a chance. You're 10-0. 10-0. You pick 6. Just keep at it. And you continue to do the same slow, unimaginative offense. When Penn State hikes the ball, it's like I put in the video in like 0.3 speed. It's like hike. Ooh.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
okay, when you play a team like Ohio State, they are going to snap and come after you, and you have to go with a little bit of oomph. And they just continue to just not do that against Ohio State. So, yeah, that's how that game went. But let's see what Penn State will probably win out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I think this is. I mean, of course they're going to. You know what I mean? They only lose the big games against Ohio State and Michigan, so we love to
Right.
see that. Next game we had was Pitt at SMU. SMU favored by 6.5. I picked Pitt. You picked SMU. SMU just dominates this game. Pitt got 14 garbage points in the fourth quarter, but God, man, I mean, just SMU straight from the first quarter scored 24 points in the second quarter. Unbelievable game by them. Kevin Jennings just went unreal. Plus, over 300 yards passing, and they rushed the ball for like their running back Brashard Smith had 161 yards on the ground, just 71-yard bomb by him on the ground. So yeah, just great game by SMU. Really showed Pittsburgh's really easy schedule leading up to this game and showed they weren't ready for it.
Yeah, SMU just a little bit too explosive early in the game, and that's what you got to do. You got to score as many points as you can, which is what they did in the second quarter. Put the game on ice. Pittsburgh, you know, they're a solid team. Just going on the road, SMU just a little bit too much firepower.
Yep, agree with you there. Didn't really watch too much of that game, but I did watch a lot of this next game. Duke at Miami. Miami favored by 20.5 points. We both picked Duke to cover here,
Oh,
and Miami just gets over by a couple garbage time touchdowns. This game was super close in the fourth quarter, man. I mean, Duke was leading for a big section of this game, and then, man, just a couple of interceptions by Malik Murphy, something that's been really hurting them throughout the season. Last game, they threw like 5 picks. It was insane. This game, he throws 3.
yeah.
A couple late in the game, man, just falls apart. They were really balanced in this game, but Miami just shows up late like they have been all season long. This Duke defense, by the way, played really, really well, man. I mean, Cam Ward didn't find a lot of guys deep down the field, man. They were doing a really good job covering these guys, but Cam Ward does what Cam Ward does, escapes the pocket, creates time for himself and gets guys open on a lot of just, imaginative plays, right? And of course, you have Xavier Restrepo, this guy, the all-time Miami receiving yard leader, and I think it's tied for the most receptions in Miami history. Great game by him. He's just unbelievable, man. Going to be a big-time NFL guy. So yeah, both picked Duke. Miami just barely covers, dude. It's so annoying.
Man, Vegas, they know something that we don't because,
Unbelievable.
in this game, it was 20 points. And then in our game, I think it was 15. And so it's kind of like at the end of the game, people are Georgia fans that pick Georgia to cover, are like, get a field goal, get a field, don't take a knee. And I'm like, oh God. But yeah, this game, it was 32-31. Then he hit the 2 big passes to Restrepo, and then I think it was Jacoby George, back-breaking touchdowns, that blew the game open. So Miami, the thing with Miami is I think that what they're doing is since our game, which we put them on the map, which is funny because everyone thinks we're terrible, but when they beat us, now they're this top-ranked team. Uh, they don't really play anyone, and so it's hard to motivate them to get up to play every game. And so they kind of woke up there in the second half. We'll see. They have Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse next. Those are sleepy games. I mean, like, who the hell wants to watch those games? But can they make it undefeated throughout the rest of the season? Let's see.
Yeah, going to be very interesting there. Next game, we have Ole Miss favored by 9.5 against Arkansas. Well, we both picked Arkansas, and that did not end
what
well.
the heck?
Ole Miss scores 28 points. It's 35-10 at halftime. Ole Miss on top. They're at Arkansas, man. Fayetteville was crying in their seats. Ole Miss then comes back in the third quarter and scores another 21 points. This is unreal. They threw the ball for over 500 yards, 6 touchdown passes for Jackson Dart. It was just easy for him. It was just easy. Rushing the ball, they ran the ball very well as well. Let a lot of guys run the ball, actually. All average for like more than 4 yards a carry. And yeah, the receivers had a day, man. Jordan Watkins, guys had a great year this season. 254 receiving yards for 5 touchdowns and a long of 66. These were just bombs, big explosive plays down the field. They had so many yards, so many plays for over 20 yards. So yeah, Ole Miss just dominates, man. Taylon Green just has a really off game. Gets injured and gets out of the game. It's all just absolute hell from there on.
Yeah, your boy Jackson Dart had a game. I mean, he was basically, well, both of the back, even the backup. I mean, they were basically perfect passing in this game. There was a moment early in the game where I think they didn't convert in the red zone, and Jackson Dart just went. I don't even know what he was saying on the sideline, but he was like cussing people out. And then they come out. He said the Tebow speech of a half, and then all of a sudden they can't stop scoring. So Lane Kiffin saw something in this game. When Lane Kiffin gets upset, it's because he sees something and the team's not doing it. And so
Hmm.
that's what happened earlier. He was not happy. Then all of a sudden, Avalanche, big time win. This game kind of reminded me of 2020 when we played Arkansas. I think we beat them like by a very similar score. I think it was 63-35 or something like that. And they had Felipe Franks.
Yeah.
It was a very similar game to this. It just Kyle Trask could not miss. They could not cover us. And it was pretty much a blowout.
Yep. With you there, man. Yeah, that was a really fun game. I remember that. Next one we have is Louisville at Clemson. Clemson favored by 8.5. We both picked Clemson to cover, and oh my God, another upset, man. Louisville comes in here, plays number 11 Clemson, and just destroys them. Final score 33-21, but those were some garbage time touchdowns, 14 points in the fourth quarter by Clemson. They had 7 points going into the fourth quarter. This was just not even close, man. They absolutely dominated, man. Clemson, listen, they ran the ball pretty well. Maffa had a few big plays, but it was really just off of explosives. I mean, Klubnik was just having so much trouble. They were not, here's one interesting thing about this game that I noticed. They were not trying to force the ball down the field. I mean, the average for
Right.
Cade Klubnik's passing, guess what? 4 yards. 4 yards of completion. They were not trying to throw the ball down the field. They didn't even attempt to throw the ball down the field. It was a really weird game. I watched a lot of this game. My buddy's one of my good friends is a big Clemson fan, and yeah, he was struggling. He was not having a fun night, and yeah, I mean, just another reason why they had so many rushing yards is it was late in this football game, and they kept running the football. Why you're running the football doesn't make any sense. And Louisville was like, okay, bet I'll let you run the football. Why? Because you guys are down by 3 touchdowns, and you're running the ball with like 10 minutes left. Go for it. Have fun. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, man. Braun and this Louisville offense, man. I mean, Tyler Shaw had a really solid game here. They ran the ball very well, but it really just comes down to Clemson just not forcing the ball down the field. Really interesting.
Uh, yeah, this was an anomaly. I was just like, Louisville physically dominated this game, which was very surprising to me. Isaac Brown, their running back, every time I kind of was watching this game half and half, they would turn around, hand him the ball, and he's like getting a first down every time and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, doesn't Clemson play defense? I thought they were going to shut this team down. But he ran for I don't know how many yards. It had to be at least when I was watching. He was running down the field like he was freaking Jerome Bettis.
7.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's crazy against Clemson, at Clemson. So that's how you beat them. I mean, you control the game, you run the ball, they can't do anything. Klubnik was really mediocre passing the ball. He he didn't complete any passes when I was watching the game. So this is a head scratcher game for me if I'm a Clemson fan. The only good news is that it was one ACC game, and you're probably still going to make the ACC championship game if you can win out. So there
Well,
you go.
what we have, but not really though, because they have SMU, and SMU just they beat Louisville a couple of weeks ago. So you have Miami
Oh,
and
okay.
SMU, and because once again one of my buddies, my camera froze again. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it's doing that today. But SMU beat Louisville, and Louisville beat them. SMU, I don't think has a single. Hold up, let's look at something real quick. Does SMU have a single conference loss? I don't think so,
Uh,
man.
let's see really quick here
They're
because
7-1.
no, they're undefeated in the
Oh,
ACC.
oh, they lost to.
So
Oh, wait,
yeah, you're right. SMU's undefeated in the ACC.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So they're scary, man. They are a scary team. So right now it's looking like Miami and SMU.
That
Unbelievable.
is so freaking unreal.
Yep.
That who the hell is the SMU coach? Can we bring him in here?
Yeah.
Uh, Let me tell you,
Yep.
SMU, I'm just pulling up there. They don't have a very tough schedule to close the season. So Boston College at Virginia, Cal. The Virginia game might be a little tricky because they're Jekyll and Hyde. But yeah, I think you're right. That man, I didn't know that. That means that Clemson does not control their own destiny anymore.
Nope. So they need SMU. I think they play. Like I think Georgia, Boston College, SMU's rest of their schedule is tough. And by the way, Clemson still plays South Carolina. That's a big game. That is a big time game.
Is that
So
in where do you know where that game is?
I do not know. Let me look.
Oh, it's in Clemson. It's in Clemson.
Okay,
Okay.
well obviously it doesn't really matter much. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, crazy man. They don't control their destiny anymore.
That is
Unbelievable.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it will be Miami SMU. If both those teams can uh, play really, really hard in their last three games, uh, I think that'll actually be a really good ACC championship game.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a hell of a game. And by the way, one of Miami's only like good tests this year. You know what I'm saying? So that's gonna be
Yeah.
a fun one to watch right there.
That is
In Charlotte.
crazy.
Next one we have is Vanderbilt at Auburn. Auburn favored by 5.5. I picked Vandy to cover. You picked Auburn. Vandy wins 17-7. 17-7.
Clark
Unbelievable.
Lee, give him an extension, Vandy. What are you waiting on?
Unreal, man. I mean, dude, Diego Pavia didn't even have a crazy game. 9 of 22, 143 yards. I didn't watch this game at all, so I'm just looking at the stats here. Peyton Thorne threw for 239 yards. They ran the ball pretty decent. Let me see what happened here. No turnovers. Okay, they fumbled the ball. So Auburn fumbled the ball one time. That was probably a key a key fumble, and Vandy just had a nice recover there. Yeah, I don't really know how, I mean, look at the stats, man. I mean, Auburn had more total yards and had more first downs. I have no idea what happened in this game. And Vandy, I don't know. That's crazy. I have no idea what happened. That is gnarly. That is gnarly.
Yeah, we were watching this game during the Florida Georgia game. That's probably why nobody really paid attention. This was just a game where Vanderbilt is one of those teams that is just not going. They're going to capitalize on every mistake. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes in their game, and they're just a well-coached team. And Diego Pavia is a really good, solid player. Clark Lee has this team playing really, really well. They're solid. The Alabama game was not a fluke. This was really surprising because Auburn comes into this game with a significantly more talented roster from a recruiting standpoint, and they are down bad now with this whole situation. So interesting.
Crazy, man. Unreal. I definitely want to go back and watch the highlights on that. That's insane. Next one we have is Texas A&M favored by 3.5 at South Carolina. We both picked Texas A&M to cover. Another L we took here, man. Texas A&M loses 20-44. 44. They could not stop Lenoris Sellers. This guy, they should have had him sacked. I watched this whole game. They should have had this guy sacked probably 6-7 times in this game, but he somehow escaped and made plays. Same thing with Marcel Reed. These are two really good defensive lines that were getting pressure on these quarterbacks, but they just kept scrambling and making plays. Lenoris Sanders, over 100 yards rushing. Sellers. Raheem Sanders, their running back, over 140 yards. This is something that's kind of hurting Texas A&M this year, is stopping the run, even though, because the same thing happened against LSU. They can't really stop the run, and even though that's all they do on offense themselves. So really, really interesting from Texas A&M here. Also, they lost Le'Veon Moss very early on in this game on a little it was like a little like dump off pass. And he gets injured, man. Never came back in. So that really hurts A&M because that was a big part of their offense and probably why they did not score a single point in the second half because it was, I believe, 20-20 at halftime. So really interesting, man. Williams-Brice Stadium, they stormed the field. Crazy environment. Unbelievable game.
Yeah, South Carolina's just one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams. They could be Georgia on one game, and they can be freaking Florida State the next game. I mean, because you think about South Carolina's performance in this game versus their performance against Ole Miss, where Ole Miss came in there and just completely. Lenore Sellers was the worst quarterback in the SEC. They could not move the ball, and Ole Miss just controlled the game from snap to end. And now you're bringing in the number one team in the SEC, well, in the standings,
Mm-hmm.
a team that has a great offensive line, great defensive line. They're controlling games. They're running, and they get freaking stoned. And then their defense, your defense, you can't stop Lenore Sell. You can't get any pressure. He's throwing the ball like he's freaking Cam Newton out there. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, well, now Texas A&M is in a situation where Marcel Reed actually has to make decisions to throw the ball instead of, oh, let me juke 100 people and run the ball. And guess what? The South Carolina defense, for better or for worse, has been a really fiery, like they're like a hornet's nest coming after the quarterback. I think they sacked Marcel Reed a couple times in this game. They got him rattled. They stoned the running game. I don't think Texas A&M was able to run the ball nearly as successfully as they do. I think they run the ball like 200, 300 yards a game when they're playing well. I don't think they got nearly that many yards in this game. So South Carolina is going to do this. So the question is, what are they going to look like in their next game? Like, because this is literally a team that will beat the socks off of Oklahoma, get destroyed by Ole Miss, beat the socks off of Texas A&M, and guess where they're going next week? Nashville to play Vanderbilt. So I will be very interested to see how that game goes next week.
Yep. No, I'm with you there. We're gonna be picking that. Don't worry, we're gonna be picking that later on. So yeah, great, crazy game there. Next one we have is Wisconsin versus Iowa. Iowa favored by 2.5. We both pick Iowa to cover, and they do. They win 42-10. What a game by Iowa, man. Scoring 14 points in the second, third, and fourth quarter. Wisconsin gets a garbage time touchdown. I mean, Iowa has an offense now, man. They have an offense. They were getting the 2 interceptions, 2 turnovers for them. No fumbles. Crazy game, man. They're obviously their run game. Like I said, we talked about this last week with our Heisman picks. I had Caleb Johnson up there, and he showed it in this game, averaging 5 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. Was just a force up there, man. And yeah, Iowa's rushing attack is what won them this game. While Wisconsin just could not get anything going in the passing game, very one-dimensional running the football, came back and bit them.
100%. Yeah, Wisconsin's just a slow, unresponsive team. Not great play calling by Luke Fickell this year. Just what the heck is he doing out there? Meanwhile, Iowa, let me tell you something. If I'm Billy Napier, I'm replaying this Iowa-Wisconsin game for our game against Texas because they did exactly what we need to do. Run the ball 40, 50 times and throw it. I think Iowa threw the ball like 8 times in this game. I was looking at this whole game. I was like, they're never going to throw it. And you don't have to throw it when you have a good defense that can hold back the other team. You play defense with your offense. Let me look up their time of possession. They had to possess the ball more than Wisconsin.
Yeah, by the
And
way,
then
10 complete or 10 attempts passing and 53 attempts running the ball. That's insane.
look at that. Do that against Texas, Billy Napier. Billy Napier, where are you? I know you're somewhere. Watch the Iowa-Wisconsin game, and that is your game plan for Texas. If you throw the ball more than 10 times, maybe me and Logan will come out there and fire you ourselves, okay? Because we're telling you what to do.
Yep.
That's what Iowa did. They are true to themselves, and that's how they destroyed Wisconsin.
There you go. And yes, they did win the time of possession by like 6, 7 minutes. So really good win there by Iowa. Indiana favored by 7.5 against at Michigan State. We both picked Michigan State in this game.
Oh my God! Why, Kirk Cignetti?
Dude, I'll tell you why. Because Michigan State was up 10-0 in the first quarter. Indiana comes back to win 47-10. They get just go off in this game. Unbelievable, man. Curtis Rourke did play, and we was questionable coming in. And man, now EJ, you understand why he was on my Heisman watch list for honorable mention, because this guy threw for 19 out of 29, 263 yards, 9 yards average, and 4 touchdowns. This guy just went off on this defense, man. A little bit of a slow start, but started going. They also ran the ball really well. They had a lot of running backs run the ball in this game, and just went absolutely crazy. All averaged over 3 yards a carry, close to 4. And yeah, Michigan State started turning the ball over. We talked about this. Aiden Childs, I love him as a quarterback, but he's young. He makes mistakes. He's been making mistakes this season. They had 1 fumble and 2 interceptions, and Indiana took advantage of that. I don't know why I ever doubted Kurt Cignetti. I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore, man. This guy's just unreal. What he does is he's just a great head coach. Crazy turnaround. They were 3-9 last year. Now they're 9-0.
Do not doubt Cignetti. Okay? That is our guiding principle. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
That's our guiding principle for the rest of the season. Okay. And I love their schedule because they got Michigan and Ohio State coming up. Uh-oh. It's going to start getting spicy in the Big Ten.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but Michigan State, what the hell is happening over there? You brought in the Oregon State coach, okay? And I have a friend who loves Michigan State, so I'm kind of like, okay, I like Michigan State. You're green. You brought in the Oregon State guy who killed us in the Vegas Bowl, and now you look like you can't play football.
Jonathan
You're
Smith.
slow. You can't throw. You do not make any adjustments, and Indiana comes out there and smokes you. I mean, it could have been worse than that. So, wow.
Crazy.
Cignetti. Love that guy.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Crazy game by Indiana. Next game we have North Carolina versus Florida State. North Carolina favored by 1.5 points. Destroys them 35-11. This is a bad North Carolina team. A struggling North Carolina team. Go into Doak Campbell Stadium and destroy them. 35-11. Florida State, 2 interceptions. Didn't know what they were doing out there. 159 passing yards. You have them not being able to run the ball. They have not been able to run the ball this entire year. They have one of the worst rushing offenses in college football. And by one of the worst, I mean like bottom 4. It's unbelievable. North Carolina, by the way, they're the opposite. They have Amarian Hampton back there, a guy who's going to be an NFL running back. Crazy game. Jacoby Criswell did pretty good as well. Passing the ball, did what he had to do. This was just Florida or North Carolina just picking on, this is like a bully just picking on a little kid. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was. This looked like an SEC team playing a Sun Belt team. And it's exactly what we saw. So crazy game by North Carolina. We both, you had North Carolina covering. I actually picked Florida State to cover. I don't know why I did that, because North Carolina is such a bad football team, and I should have not trusted. I don't know why I did that.
What the hell is happening with? First of all, can we just say something? Florida State University. Okay, Bobby Bowden. You didn't put any respect on his name with this performance. Okay. North Carolina, this is why I didn't even know this stat before I just looked at it, but this is why I said we're going to beat them even with Aiden Warner, is North Carolina had the ball for 40 minutes in this game to 20 minutes for FSU. How can you let that happen when you had the best defensive line in the country coming into the season? What are these guys doing? Did they get the NIL and then take a break? So it's a travesty. I mean, I don't like FSU. I like to see them down bad. But if I'm an FSU fan right now, people need to start paying their NIL back because this is absolutely horrendous. You got stone walked by a team that is mid-level ACC. Okay, if we played North Carolina tomorrow, we'd probably be favored. But the reality is, you got ran over. You couldn't get any stops. Awful, terrible. What the hell is Mike Norvell doing? This is now their 8th loss of the season. So there's Norvell with 8 L's. I've never seen anything like this. This is a complete and utter implosion, and you can't afford to fire him. But I don't know. If I'm FSU, I'd say, hey, that Kurt Signetti looks pretty good right now.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Logan, this is gonna happen.
No, man, that's crazy. Next one, yeah, no, crazy. No, it's sad to see. Like, honestly, you know, it hurts, man. Yeah, just sad. Next one we have is Oregon at Michigan. Oregon favored by 3. We both picked Oregon to cover, and they did. This is a really good game by Oregon, man. Hard-fought game by Michigan early on, but Oregon scores 21 in the second quarter and just takes care of business in the second half, man. Nothing crazy. They definitely took the foot off the gas a little bit. They played a really, really good game against a tough Michigan team. Look, Michigan's not going to, and we talked about this too last week, Michigan, they're not going to let anybody come into their stadium and get a win. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to do that. They're going to fight. You know what I mean? It's the Big House, man. They're not going to let that happen. They're not going to let a team from the Pac-12 come in and go crazy and take over their conference, but that's kind of what Oregon did. Oregon had some other plans, man, and Dylan Gabriel just playing unbelievable. Jordan James, number 20, just an absolute monster on the ground. And, you know, they can't really throw the football in Michigan, but Davis Warren did have a couple good drives here. And, of course, they got some good guys in the backfield running the football, but God, man, Oregon is just unbelievable, man. You know, and yeah, this just showed how good of a football team they are. They are the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the head coach in waiting situation. Sharon Moore took over from Jim Harbaugh. It just has never really worked out. Now I say that, and you know, the one time I think it really worked out was Ryan Day has been decent at Ohio State. You know, he was OC for Urban Meyer. But I just didn't think I felt like Michigan is a big enough job to where they should have went out and got a big time head coach. Sharon Moore, it just doesn't. Something's not right there. Defensively, this team has just completely not been the same team. They don't have the identity that they had with Harbaugh. It's going to be tough for them to win games. But Oregon, explosive, very high-scoring team, and you cannot beat them if you have a offense that can barely score. And the only touchdown that I saw Michigan score in this game that was legit was after a muff punt from Oregon. So you take that away, and you're basically not even scoring against them, which is tragic.
In the Big House. Unbelievable.
On your home field. Yeah, against a big Pac-12 team that was in the Pac-12 since the 30s. Okay? Yep. So not good.
Unreal, man. Dan Lanning has been an amazing job there, bro. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, can we get Dan Lanning?
Yeah. Honestly, man. So there you go. We both went 4-7, which makes the all-time record for me 11-11. So I'm 500. EJ 9-13. So hopefully we're about to dive into these the next week's picks here. We're gonna go through these pretty quick. Hopefully it's a bounce back. Hopefully it's a bounce back week, EJ. Let's see what happens. So let's dive into this, man. All right, let me open up this real quick, get back to our faces, and perfecto. All right, cool. Game 1, Miami favored by 12.5 at Georgia Tech, man. Look, this is going to be a hell of a game, man. Number 1, Georgia Tech has been playing teams pretty well this season. And you know, you have a Miami team that they've struggled. You know what I mean? They've especially on the road, they have struggled a little bit. Louisville, Cal. This is another ACC opponent here in Georgia Tech. They can make you struggle a little bit. I have Georgia Tech covering, and this will probably bite me in the butt because the same thing happened with Duke. But I think Georgia Tech's going to cover. I don't know if they're going to win this game, but look, man, Atlanta's going to be popping. You already know what's up. I have Georgia Tech covering this game.
Georgia Tech. Here's the thing. Give me Miami to cover only because I just think this is one of those games where Miami can just devote everything to stop the run and say, Cam Ward, do your thing. And I don't think Georgia Tech has enough what's it called? Pass rush to really make Cam Ward think differently. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go Miami exactly 2 touchdowns to win this game.
There you go. That's honestly, it's probably going to happen. You know what I mean? They love the late scoring and running it up. So I totally understand that, man. I cannot stand this Miami team. All right, next we have is Georgia favored by, I believe that's 2.5 at Ole Miss. This is going to be a very interesting game. Georgia.
Wow.
You know, can we get Carson Beck's confidence back up? You know what I mean? Can you make something happen against like you said, a pretty stout Ole Miss defense, right? But man, can Jackson Dart show up against a Georgia defense that's going to be pissed? That's going to be super aggressive. Going to be one hell of a game, man. Oxford's going to be popping. I have Georgia covering here, but I don't know. This could be a very fun game, but I just know Georgia shows up in these big games, you know?
Georgia shows up in these big games. And like I said before, Lane Kiffin and Josh Heupel, they have these flashy offenses, but they're not complex NFL scheme offenses. And when you got a guy like Schumann and you got a guy like Kirby Smart, it's going to scheme this game up. It's going to look completely different. Ole Miss is going to act like they're going to look like they can't score. And then when the Ole Miss defense gets the ball, they're gonna force some issues with Carson Beck. But I think as the game goes on, Georgia's gonna be able to just score. I'm gonna take Georgia by a touchdown.
I like that. I like that. I agree. Next one we have is Clemson favored by 6.5. By the way, these are all FanDuel. Brought to you by FanDuel for the spreads. So these will be different, of course, and this is Sunday. But Clemson favored by 6.5 at Virginia Tech. Very interesting game. Virginia Tech, one thing about them is their run defense has been pretty solid this year. And obviously Clemson, are they going to be able to throw the ball down the field? Are they going to be able to get chunk plays in the passing game? And not because they're not going to really be able to rely on Phil Maffa like they have been in the past. Very interesting. But I like the number 6.5. 7.5. And I would probably think differently here, but I have Clemson covering at 6.5. I think they win by a touchdown, but man, because also they've also had games where they put up 35 points in a quarter. They're very inconsistent, but I think dude, they might be also looking at the fact of what I told you earlier, EJ, about them being out of the ACC run now for the championship. So are they going to be even in it? I don't know, man. I could see them imploding here because they have imploded in the second half of seasons before, but I have Clemson covering here with a touchdown.
Beautiful pick. I'm going to go Clemson to cover. I just think the Louisville game was just a fluke, and I think they're going to respond. Virginia Tech is a solid team. They're going to need things to go their way on their home field. I think their defensive line is going to have issues in this game. I just think Clemson, this is a get right game for them. Clemson covers, but only touchdown.
There you go. I love that pick. Next one we have is Michigan at Indiana. Indiana favored by 13.5 points, man. This is going to, listen, I know I said don't doubt Curt Cignetti earlier, but I think Michigan's going to show up to play in this game, man. I think they're pissed. They just got beat. They're mad. They're angry. But this is Indiana, man. This is Curtis O'Rourke. I have Indiana covering. I like the number 13.5. I think they can win by 2 touchdowns in this game, but listen, it would not surprise me if Michigan, I don't think they'll win it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they get under this number here.
I'm never going to doubt Signetti Spaghetti ever again. Indiana covers. Michigan, they cannot score. Indiana, they can score. And that's how this game's going to go. Michigan, tears, baby. Indiana. There you go.
Love that. Next one we have is Colorado favored by 2.5 at Texas Tech. This is a big game in the Big 12 here. Going to be really, really fun. Texas Tech just came off of an absolute stunner against Iowa State, won the football game, beat I think Iowa State was number 10 or something like that. Undefeated, goes in there, gets the win, wins last second on an unbelievable drive, man. Oh my God, what's the running back's name? It's on the tip of my tongue, man. He was a big, he's just transferred there. Cannot remember his name, but just an absolute dog back there. That's what we love to see. Thing is, though, is Texas Tech's defense in the secondary has been horrendous, and you're going against Colorado. We know that they love to throw the ball with Shedeur Sanders. Because of that, I've Colorado winning by a lot more than 2.5. I think just this secondary for Texas Tech is gonna be in a rough position here.
Coach Prime, I think they had a bye week. They put together a game plan. Shedeur Sanders, that's all you need to know. Oh, Travis Hunter. I love that name. He is definitely ready for this game. Texas Tech but the Big 12 is a Jekyll and Hyde situation, but Colorado has been one of the more consistent teams. You know what you're going to get from them every single game. Buffs cover.
There you go. I agree there. Next one we have is South Carolina favored by 3.5 at Vanderbilt. Look, man, like we were saying earlier, South Carolina is a team that can have a big win and then lose a really, really shitty game. And that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Vanderbilt wins this game. I think South Carolina is thrown off course, and it's just a typical South Carolina thing. I have Vanderbilt winning this game.
Give me Vandy. Give me Vandy to cover. I think they'll win outright. South Carolina will look like a completely different team. Watch.
Yep. I totally agree. Sellers will not be on target. It's going to be one of those weird games, man. I'm totally with you there. Next one we have is Mississippi State at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 23.5 points. Look, man, Tennessee loves to run the football, but their run blocking on PFF has been pretty bad recently. Mississippi State has a horrendous defense. I get that. But I think Mississippi State, a team that's been really grindy. Look, they've put some teams in some really bad situations this year, man. Not the Gators somehow, but every other team they've played, they have. I have Mississippi State covering here.
Ooh, okay. So here's how this game. I'm going to take Tennessee to cover, and here's why. When you play a team that has a really good defense like Tennessee, they're going to stone you, and then Tennessee's offense, which is not that great, is going to be playing against a Mississippi State defense that is absolutely just throw it away. I think that just over time is going to add up, and I think it's going to be right at the 24-point margin. Tennessee, 38-14.
There you go. There you go. I'm with you there. That's
Rocky
nice.
Top. Rocky
Oh
Top.
my God, that song, dude! They play that song. I went to the Clemson and Tennessee Orange Bowl game a couple years back, dude. They literally play it like at least 50 times. It's insane.
Oh, I was there.
Oh, there you go. Love that, dude. Yeah, that was the atmosphere was amazing that night. That was a really fun game. Really good time. Next one we have is Alabama favored by 2.5 at LSU. I cannot wait for this game. It's always aggressive. There's so much hate here. I love it. Listen, man. LSU, a team that's been very, very good. They have been on point. Their defense has been getting better until they've played Texas A&M, and it fell apart. Both teams have a bye week, like you were stating. Can they bounce back? Can they do something here? I don't know, man. I think Bama's desperate. I think Bama's going to come out swinging. LSU's run blocking has not been great. Can Bama, that front four, take advantage of that and force Nussmeier to throw bad passes? I think so. I have Bama covering the 2.5.
Oh man, this is the toughest game,
It's
I
tough.
think. This is the toughest game. Um, you know, let me go LSU in this game to win uh and to cover. Um, I think how this game is going to go is Milrow is going to continue his struggles. I think LSU is going to put together a good game plan for him. They're going to bottle him up, and he's going to make a couple of mistakes. LSU wins it in Baton Rouge. Now, if it was in, and Brian Kelly's beaten Alabama before
Mm,
with LSU, so the curse is not there. LSU cover.
there you go. I respect it. Next one we have BYU favored by 3.5 at Utah. Look, this BYU team has found ways to win, right? They have found ways to win a lot of close games, but have come out on top. Here they are at Utah, coming off of a great win against UCF and also coming off of a bye week. Thing about Utah is they cannot throw the ball to save their life. It has been horrendous this year. They've had injuries, but also Rising has looked looked like absolute garbage. And BYU's pass defense is pretty solid. Because of that, I think BYU gets a win here, favored by 3.5. I see them winning by a couple tutties.
Oh yeah, for sure. BYU easiest cover of the night. BYU easy. BYU 8 straight wins. Utah 4 straight losses.
Mm.
Not a great situation for the Utes, which is interesting given that in this new look Big 12, I thought Utah would be able to be better than they were in the Pac-12. Not panning out. And they lost to Arizona, which got absolutely demolished by UCF.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
There you go. Next one we have, speaking of UCF at Arizona State. Arizona State favored by 3.5 points. UCF loves to run the ball. Whenever they run the ball well, they win football games. Well, Arizona State's run defense has not been good as of late. They've been great the whole season, but against Utah and at Cincinnati, it's fallen apart. They bounced back a little bit with the Oklahoma State game, but as we know, Oklahoma State cannot run the ball to save their life either. So, what Arizona State defense is going to show up? Because if you give UCF an ounce of hope in running the football, they win this game. My, I listen. I had Arizona State underlined, but I think UCF's going to get a win here. I think they're going to be able to run the ball on this Arizona State team.
Man, um, so how many sacks did UCF have on Arizona? Because Arizona has 5 rushing yards for 25 attempts. That is just absolutely, why did you even show up to the game? That I would start questioning your manhood. 5 rushing yards against UCF. But let me tell you something. I'm gonna go Arizona State in this game, bounce back, because the way that the Big 12 goes is you look great one game and you look terrible the next. So UCF is not gonna they're not gonna run, they're not gonna hold Arizona State to 5 yards rushing. I think who do we got here? We got Cam Scatibo, who's already at 1,000 yards. Yeah, I figured they had 1,000 yard rusher already this season. I don't even think we have. When's the last time we had 1,000 yard rusher? And he's got 1,000 yards, and they've only played 8 games. Arizona State covers.
There you go. There you go. Well, listen, we picked opposite on like 4 or 5 of these, so we're gonna see what happens, man. This is gonna be
Oh
very
no, you're gonna
interesting.
beat me.
No, I don't know. Or you might have a comeback because listen, you had some really good picks here. So we'll see what happens, man. But there you guys go, man. Those are our week 11 picks. You guys let us know, man, how you feel about the Georgia game, what you think is going to happen with the Texas game. Give us your picks in the comment section down below, man. Don't be scared. We'll respond to you guys. We'll talk with you guys. And yeah, man, we really do appreciate all the love and support you guys have been showing us. EJ, anything you want to say to the people?
Thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe. Give us some feedback. Give us some comments. Also one last thing. Gator basketball starts
Yeah.
this Monday. Um, we're picked to be like 6th or 7th in the SEC this year. the SEC's tough sledding. The transfer portal is evened a lot of things up, but we play USF on Monday night. Looking forward to it. I think we're gonna be in for a good year. Todd Golden era.
Yes,
Love
sir. Yes, sir. There we go. We'll be following that. I'll let EJ do a week by week little segment as well, talking about what we've seen from the Gator football or Gator basketball. So we'll do a little segment going forward on that. But yeah, really do appreciate you guys, man. We'll see you next Sunday as always. Love you guys. Stay safe.
Peace.